What's up guys, this is your favorite fanfic YouTuber, the Fanfic Majesty. Join my Discord if you want to chat and share your thoughts, the link is in the description. 5MB Chapter 131 Three Monsters. Kurla, we found brother Cheng Cheng, over here. Sabo shouted, and Kurla from far away on the coast heard the sound and hurried over to Sabo. In the night, Sabo bent down and picked up Cheng Cheng, who was soaked in water. He didn't care that his body was wet from the seawater. He just asked with a cold look, how did it become like this? Who did it? Cheng Cheng, who was pale and soaked, gave a bitter smile and said softly, what if I said that I went to fight Akainu and Aokiji, two of the three generals of Marine, and I challenged them 2+1 7 warlords of the sea at the same time? Do you believe it or not? Ah. Kurla, who ran over, covered her mouth and exclaimed, looking at Cheng Cheng like a monster and exclaimed. Brother Cheng Cheng, are you desperate for your life? Sakazuki and Aokiji are Marine generals. Those two are perverts with terrifying strength. Why are you provoking them when you have nothing to do? Sabo, who was slowly walking forward with Cheng Cheng on his back in the night, stopped and felt a bad feeling in his heart. He hesitated and asked, is it because of Ace? Cheng Cheng nodded lightly. Ace failed in the battle with Blackbeard, and was captured by Akainu and the others who arrived later. He should have been escorted to Impel Down City by now. I tried to intercept him outside Impel Down City, but still failed. This matter is carried out secretly in Marine, and even our Grandpa Garp probably doesn't know about it. After his thoughts were confirmed, Sabo instantly felt that he was about to suffocate. His whole body was weak, and he was about to fall to his knees as soon as his legs became weak. Kara, who had quick eyes and quick hands, quickly stepped forward, supported Sabo, and sighed. Sabo, let me carry brother Cheng Cheng. No, I'll carry it. Sabo took a deep breath, his eyes flashed with coldness, and he just repeated one sentence over and over again with an unusually firm tone. I'll carry it. As for Cheng Cheng on the back, of course he wanted Kurla's soft and delicate body to carry him. He had just stayed on Sabo's back for a while, and he felt like all the bones in his body were falling apart. Now he had looked away from Ace's affairs and waited until the war was over. One more chance to win, but this is the only time left. Cheng Cheng comforted. It's okay, fortunately, we still have time and a chance. Brother Cheng Cheng, am I a little too weak now? Sabo said sadly. Cheng Cheng felt the golden devil fruit in the space ring, slowly raised his hand and patted Sabo's head, and said with a smile. Brother is here, I will make you stronger tomorrow. Sabo just thought it was Cheng Cheng comforting himself. His own strength was not weak, he knew that his strength was cultivated little by little. How could he suddenly become stronger in one day? He sighed. How is it possible? There is no way in the world. Such a good thing. Advertisement, but he waited for a long time and didn't get Cheng Cheng's answer. Just when he was about to ask a question, he heard a slight snore. In the dark night, the shadows of the three people on the white ground were stretched infinitely by the moonlight. But now Sabo was exuding a strong murderous aura. Kella, who was following behind him, stopped, his eyes full of worry. As the second in command of the Revolutionary Army, Sabo could deal with anything with a calm face. He had always had a gentle character that would not change his face even when the mountain collapsed. This is a fantasy beast devil fruit worth more than 10 billion belly. Whether he is reliable or not is not up to him. Cheng Cheng sneered and took another sip of wine. Both Sabo and Kara exclaimed at the same time, staring at the devil fruit in front of them with dumbfounded eyes. This is a precious thing worth more than 100 million belly. Cheng Cheng glanced at Sabo with a strange expression. Then you have to tell me first how you became the chief of staff of the Revolutionary Army. Kara, who was smiling behind her, said helplessly, you two brothers are both perverts. It is said that the rare phantom beast devil fruit was once auctioned for a sky-high price of 12 billion baileys. When Cheng Cheng woke up the next day, his body had almost recovered. He could only sigh at the power of the fairy beans again, but his head was still a little groggy, which was similar to the aftereffects of the Keishin Yijin released before. Sabo turned his head and looked at Cheng Cheng solemnly. Kizaru is a fickle person, can he be trusted? He reluctantly took out the small jade bottle from the space ring, and after drinking the water of life inside, he felt a little energetic. Time seemed to stand still at this moment. Cheng Cheng told Sabo roughly about Tuanzi. After knowing that Tuanzi was with Grandpa Garp, Sabo instantly understood what Cheng Cheng meant. Cheng Cheng and Sabo both laughed dumbly. Sabo took the golden devil fruit in his hand, waited and said, I'm a little reluctant to eat it. If the money from the sale is used as military pay for the soldiers, it can last for a year. The two had a simple breakfast and then took a walk and chatted in the mountains behind the base. Many people in the base knew Cheng Cheng along the way and would greet each other with a smile when they saw him. Advertisement. Cheng Cheng smiled and nodded. Cheng Cheng chuckled. Kizaru is one of ours now, you just need to know this. The more people who know, the easier it will be to expose this trump card. Sabo swallowed his saliva and said, yesterday you said you would eat this to make me stronger? After saying that, Sabo rushed to the Revolutionary Army base as quickly as possible, leaving only Cheng Cheng and Kara looking at each other. Sabo sighed, you are obviously only a few months older than me, why are you so perverted? How did you do it? Cheng Cheng turned his head away from looking at Sab's unseen face, and said to Kara, hurry up and wipe Sab's saliva. Otherwise there will be an extra river in the back of your Revolutionary Army. Cheng Cheng raised his head and took a sip of wine and said with a smile, that's not entirely the reason. Don't underestimate Tuanzi now. Now that she has eaten the phantom beast devil fruit, she dares to chase Kizaru and Chopper. The leader of the Revolutionary Army, Long, didn't know what urgent matter he encountered. He left the base silently early in the morning. Everyone in the base was accustomed to this. Devil fruit. Kara, who vaguely guessed what Sabo wanted to do, looked at Sabo's hurried away figure but still wasn't sure. After saying that, he seemed to feel it was inappropriate and added, Ace, who became the captain of Whitebeard's second team, is also a monster. Then Cheng Cheng stretched out his right hand, and a golden devil fruit appeared in a flash of golden light. This is the last one I have for now. What kind of phantom beast you can eat depends on your luck. Sabo stood up suddenly, threw away the wine in his hand, the bottle broke, and put the devil fruit back into Cheng Cheng's hand, and then said hurriedly, Wait for me for a while. Cheng Cheng fell asleep unconsciously. Both of them were sitting cross-legged, holding a bottle of wine in their hands. Kara seemed a little worried about Sabo's condition, so she also sat down. What's going on with Kizaru? Have you provoked all 3 marine generals in just a short time? Sabo said helplessly. Sitting up, he saw Sabo sleeping on the chair next to him, and couldn't help but shake his head and smile bitterly. Ace is now captured, and you have another battle with 2 marines. Even if you wear a mask, your identity will be exposed sooner or later. Tuanzi is still so young, and it is really not suitable to continue to be with you. Stay in Garp Grandpa's side is the best choice. Chapter 132 The Sacred Iron That Sets the Bottom of Tianhe. Without letting Cheng Cheng and Kurla wait long, Sabo quickly ran out of the base again, carrying a small folding wooden table and a large bottle of champagne. After Sabo sat down, he skillfully opened his small folding wooden table. Unfortunately, the small wooden table that had not been used for a long time was already covered with dust. He wiped it for a while before he was satisfied and placed the bottle of champagne on the table. Then he opened the package behind him and took out 3 tulip-shaped goblets. He opened the white silk and revealed the stainless steel cutlery and cutlery wrapped inside. Kurla said helplessly, Sure enough, I guessed it right. Cheng Cheng was also dumbfounded and said with a smile, As expected, our Saab is still very particular. He is worthy of being a child of a noble family. Sabo looked serious, slowly poured champagne into 3 goblets, placed the apple-like golden phantom devil fruit on the dinner plate, and said with a smile, If this phantom beast devil fruit worth tens of billions is eaten casually like an apple, then my sin will be great. I must taste this good thing slowly. Sabo clasped his hands together and muttered silently, I won't be polite. Then he started to work, slowly and gracefully holding a knife in one hand and a fork in the other. He quickly cut the devil fruit into standard tofu pieces, then hung the napkin on his chest and glanced at Cheng Cheng and Kei sheepishly. Urla. Don't look at this and drink. Cheng Cheng smiled quietly. Sabo was still the same as before. It seemed that the etiquette of the nobles had not disappeared with the passage of time. When they were children, he and Ace often teased Sabo for this. Cheng Cheng picked up the goblet and drank all the champagne in it. Then he seemed to think that drinking like this was not bad. He also imitated Sabo's posture and poured the wine into the goblet and tasted it slowly. Born into a noble family since childhood, Sabo yearned for a free life. Even now that he has become the chief of staff of the Revolutionary Army, some of the things in his heart have not disappeared, but have deeply affected him over time. Sabo ate gracefully but not slowly. In the time it took Cheng Cheng to finish a bottle of wine, Sabo had already eaten all the devil fruits on the plate. Not a single residue is left. Sabo looked down and saw 5 large raised characters engraved in the middle of the iron rod, but the shapes of the characters were weird and he couldn't recognize them. Advertisement. When the 5 small seal characters that blinded him appeared, Cheng Cheng was absolutely certain in his heart. Sabo looked at the smooth iron rod in his hand. The 2 ends were bound by 2 golden metal pieces, and in the middle was a section of black iron. It was covered with stars and densely covered with mysterious and obscure patterns as well as dragon and phoenix seals. Cheng Cheng reminded, Kara, be careful, otherwise this iron rod will be very heavy. Cheng Cheng sighed and introduced with a smile. The Ruyi Golden Cudgel, also known as the Tianhe Dingding Sacred Iron, weighs 13,500 kilograms. Undoubtedly, the phantom beast species, the form of the Monkey King. When the iron rod in his hand appeared, the golden light on Sabo slowly dissipated. Cheng Cheng, who was already stunned, felt extremely regretful at this moment. When he first saw the golden threads shooting out of Sabo's eyes, he didn't understand what kind of phantom beast it was, but when he saw the iron rod condensed in Sabo's hand, he felt a little uncomfortable in his heart. Good hunch. Sabo stood up with excitement in his eyes, and a dazzling golden light spread out from him. Kella stepped forward disdainfully and was about to take away Sabo's iron rod. I still don't believe it. What power can my iron rod have? Boom. After holding the Ruyi Golden Cudgel with one hand, he signaled Sabo to let go with his eyes. Kara on the side looked at Sabo with confusion, and said with a frown, This phantom beast fruit worth 10 billion is exchanged for an iron rod. Brother Cheng Cheng, have you been deceived by someone? Kurla's expression became even more disdainful, as if she thought Cheng Cheng was discriminating against her as a woman. As a fishman karate master of the Revolutionary Army, couldn't she still be unable to hold an iron rod? The more this happens, the more Kara wants to prove herself. Suddenly, Kurla, who was holding the Ruyi Golden Cudgel, felt a huge weight. It seemed that she was not holding an iron rod but lifting a mountain peak. Her expression changed drastically. Although she hurriedly exerted her strength, her body still hit the ground heavily. The iron rod sank deeply into the white ground, the ground around it was cracked, and smoke was everywhere. Sabo didn't feel anything was wrong, and then naturally let go of the iron rod in his hand. Advertisement. Sabo also felt no shame and said proudly, but I feel that this iron rod contains a lot of power. From the perspective of not wasting food, Sabo is definitely a qualified example. But after the golden light shot out of Sabo's eyes, he regained his composure, and his eyes shone with golden light. Then Sabo shook his wrist and held it in his right hand, as if he was holding his water pipe. Suddenly, Sabo's eyes suddenly shot out two extremely long golden rays of light, which hit the white rock in front of him at an extremely fast speed. The hard white rock exploded instantly, and the gravel surged. Cheng Cheng dodged and stood in front of Kurla to prevent her from being accidentally injured by Sabo. Cheng Cheng rolled his eyes and said directly, "This is called the Rui Golden Cudgel. It is completely different from your broken water pipe, right?" He waved a few sticks casually and smiled. "This iron rod is good. It seems to be a little easier than my water pipe, but I don't recognize the words written on it. Brother Cheng Cheng, can you help me find out what this is?" Character. Cheng Cheng looked at Sabo, who was glowing with golden light and was extremely gorgeous. He was convinced that anything that glowed with golden light was generally a good thing. No matter how bad it was, it wouldn't be any worse. It might just be a legendary fantasy beast. Kind. Kurla, who was still unresponsive, looked at the cracks on the ground unwillingly, bent down and tried to pick up the iron rod again, but her face turned red from holding it in, and the Rui Golden Cudgel still didn't move at all, like a big pile of iron rods. "The mountain stands tall and motionless," Kurla asked with a hint of disdain. "Don't all the fruits of the phantom beast breed transform? Sabo, why do you only turn into an iron rod?" The golden light on Sabo's body became stronger and stronger, and the unrivaled aura of domineering power on his body also rose, even alerting the commander of the base, Beiluo, the deputy commander of the army, Ahiru, and the intelligence control officer Gildeo. He looked at the golden light rising into the sky from the back mountain in surprise. If Kara hadn't reacted quickly and let go in time, she might have been dragged into the ground. Countless dots of golden light gathered in the center of his palm, and in the blink of an eye, an iron rod emitting golden light was formed. It was about 2 meters long, and the thickness was exactly the same as the water pipe he usually used. "Sob, how do you feel now? Has there been any change?" Kara asked with concern. Cheng Cheng said with emotion, "You see, I have warned you a long time ago." Sabo took a breath and widened his eyes. What on earth is going on? Chapter 133 The knife cannot be unsheathed. Sabo's eyes suddenly lit up and he exclaimed, "This is really a treasure. If this is used as a weapon, who can withstand my blow?" As he spoke, he bent down and held the iron rod in his hand, loving it more and more. Cheng Cheng continued, "The role of the Rui Golden Cudgel is far more than that. What is Rui? That is, it can be big or small, long or short, and can be expanded and contracted freely." Sabo, who was skeptical about this, whispered, "Longer?" The Rui Golden Cudgel instantly doubled in size. Both Sabo and Kella were stunned for a moment, and then showed expressions of surprise. Next, Sob took the trouble to make the Rui Golden Cudgel longer and shorter, thicker and thinner. At the longest time, the iron rod penetrated straight into the sky, like a pillar supporting the sky. Such a spectacular scene instantly attracted the attention of countless people in the base. Watch. Sabo, who was almost done playing, then remembered to ask Cheng Cheng, "What kind of fantasy beast am I? It's too domineering." Cheng Cheng smiled and said, "Monkey King, and the ability of this phantom beast species is definitely more than that. For example, when you refine, you can try to transform into other things." Sabo was stunned for a moment and asked, "What can it become?" Cheng Cheng thought for a while and pointed at everything around him, "Everything you can see." Next, they walked casually along the coast. Sabo's iron rod swung for a while and then, due to lack of strength, it turned into golden light and dissipated. The two returned to the base and had a sumptuous lunch. At this time, Cheng Cheng felt that his physical strength and energy had almost recovered, and he was about to get up and say goodbye to Sabo and the others. Sabo and Kara sent Cheng Cheng to the gate of the base. Sabo patted Cheng Cheng on the shoulder and said proudly, "I will let you go this time because you are patient. When we meet next time, let's have a good discussion with you using the Rui Golden Cudgel." Cheng Cheng didn't care and sneered, "Don't forget, you haven't seen and heard domineering yet. It's hard to touch me. No matter how heavy your iron rod is, what will happen?" Sabo had just raised his confidence and was suddenly hit hard again. He could only forcefully calm down and said, "Maybe next time we meet, I will have awakened to the domineering power of seeing and hearing." Kara on the side just smiled and looked at the two bickering brothers, standing quietly behind Sabo. "I hope so, but I hope that the next time we meet, our 4 brothers can sit together and have a good drink, drinking him to death." Advertisement. After Cheng Cheng finished speaking, he flew into the sky on somersault clouds. Above the sea of clouds, there was silence. Cheng Cheng lowered his head and glanced at the white island below, which had become the size of a palm. After letting Sabo eat the Monkey King's phantom beast species, he felt relieved. In this way, Sabo will definitely be a vital combat force in the war on the top. The possibility of winning has also increased a lot. But now their strength is still far behind Marines. It seems that the planting of phantom beast seeds must be accelerated. Calculating the time, Lao Sha should be back by now. I hope Lao Sha can give me a little surprise. System, teleport to Yudi, Cheng Cheng said softly. Open black lens bracket as you command, sir. Close black lens bracket, Marine headquarters. After Tuanzi came to the Marine headquarters, Garp, who loved Tuanzi very much, took Tuanzi back to his small courtyard. Originally, Garp wanted to give Tuanzi the largest room and then decorate it carefully to make him the most perfect pink princess house. But after Tuanzi heard that Master had lived in the small room on the second floor, he always insisted on living there. Helpless, Garp could only obey Tuanzi and had the dusty room cleaned spotlessly overnight. There is no other way. Garp, who has always wanted a granddaughter, really likes dumplings. In the past, he couldn't help but have a headache when he saw Cheng Cheng, Ace, and Luffy making noises. But now it's fine, it's like waiting. When it comes to Tuanzi, a cute and smart little girl. They say they are relatives from another generation, but Garp doesn't really care about Cheng Cheng and the four of them. He doesn't care about their life or death at all, but in front of Tuanzi, the smile on Garp's face never stops. Early the next morning, Garp, who has always been casual about eating, ordered the marine kitchen to cook nutritious dishes for the first time. Even the head chef was shocked when he saw the marine hero Garp, thinking he had done something wrong. Advertisement later, when he found out that he was going to cook for his disciple's little girl, the head chef breathed a sigh of relief, patted his chest and made more than a dozen dishes for breakfast alone. And under Garp's special instructions, nutritional supplements such as rare Poseidon meat are indispensable. After setting up the food in the courtyard, it was already 8 o'clock in the morning. Garp walked briskly up to the second floor, ready to wake up Tuanzi. He knocked lightly at the door and called for Tuanzi twice, but no one answered. He smiled slightly, thinking not to disturb Tuanzi's sleep, but then he thought that the food was getting cold, so he slowly pushed the door open, called Tuanzi again. However, what Garp saw was an empty bed with thin quilts neatly folded. Dumpling! Garp yelled and immediately panicked, hurriedly searching around the small room. After searching around for a while, Garp finally remembered that he could still see and smell hockey, so he closed his eyes and his aura instantly enveloped the entire Marine headquarters. In an instant, everyone in Marine ranging from Lieutenant General to above were shocked by this overbearing aura. Those who were familiar with Garp's aura muttered with strange expressions, "Why is Garp going crazy in broad daylight?" Then this powerful aura disappeared in a flash. Garp was dumbfounded to find that the aura of Tuanzi was right above his head. He quickly left the room, walked on the moonwalk, and when he reached the roof of the small courtyard, he saw Tuanzi's figure and finally relaxed with a long sigh of relief. Tuanzi stood on the eaves, facing north, holding the interpreter in one hand and the dark chaser in the other, slashing forward tirelessly. The dragon slayer was hung on his waist, and he did not use the sword-raising skills he had learned. The roar of the two swords caused waves of turmoil. Although the swords were not out of their sheaths, the sky above the courtyard was still full of sword energy. Seeing Tuanzi practicing his sword so hard, Garp suddenly thought of Luffy, who was lazy as a child. The more he looked at Tuanzi, the more pleasing he became. Garp asked with a smile, "Xiao Tuanzi, why can't you practice the sword without unsheathing it? It's not your master who taught you to do this, right?" Tuanzi said contemptuously, "How is it possible? My master said that I will not be allowed to fight within a year, so I practice swordsmanship like this. If this knife ever comes out of its sheath, I won't be able to help myself if I meet someone who wants to cut him." Chapter 134. Feeling proud, Garp was instantly relieved and laughed. "Oh, what a good boy. He works hard and knows how to restrain himself. He is exactly like your master when he was a child." Tuanzi immediately became energetic and asked, "Tell me what my master did when he was a child." Garp asked, "What time did you get up?" Tuanzi said casually, "I always get up at 5 o'clock. Ever since I started practicing swordsmanship with my master, I have become accustomed to getting up early." Garp extended his thumb to the little girl in front of him, praised her, and said, "Let's go down to eat first. While we eat, we will tell you about the glorious deeds of little Cheng Cheng." Tuanzi agreed with a smile. She jumped up and landed on the bluestone floor like a swallow. After seeing a dozen dishes placed on the table in front of her, Tuanzi was stunned for a moment, and a feeling of warmth surged into her heart. In disbelief, Tuanzi checked with Garp again and realized that this was indeed breakfast for the two of them. After sitting down, Garp and Tuanzi both devoured their food. After a while, more than half of the food on the table was consumed. Garp looked at Tuanzi, who was still a little unhappy, and asked with a smile, "Xiao Tuanzi, is it true that there is nothing you want to eat in the food they cooked? Just tell master what you want to eat. In this world, everything you want master can get you whatever you want." Tuanzi shook his head and sighed. "These are delicious, but it's a pity that there is no wine." Garp, who was known as the hero of Marine, hurriedly swallowed the bones and meat in his mouth, stood up with a solemn expression and said, "Look at my memory, forget about this matter, master. Go now, I'll get you some wine. Warring states and he have a lot of good wine, so I'll borrow some from them, master." Tuanzi, who was eating a lot of meat, suddenly smiled and said, "Thank you, master." This thank you almost made Garp cry. When did his son Long, as well as those bastards Luffy, Cheng Cheng, and Ace say thank you to his grandfather? Of course, even if they say it, Garp won't care. How can any girl be cute among those brats? Warring States and Crane, please contribute a little bit to my little dumpling this time. Who said that you are also the elders? Garp laughed and walked out of the courtyard in a good mood. The dumplings who continued to stay in the small courtyard to eat did not wait long. Garp pushed a small cart and parked it at the entrance of the courtyard. The cart was full of sealed jars. Just looking at the wine jars, you can tell that they are valuable. Good wine. Advertisement. Tuanzi hurried out and couldn't wait to open a jar of wine at will. As soon as he opened the lid, the whole yard was filled with the aroma of wine. Big fish, big meat, plenty of food and wine. Garp said softly, Lil Tuanzi, it's too boring for you to practice swordsmanship on the roof by yourself. Why don't you go to the recruit camp to practice with your peers? This way you can still have a partner, and those who can enter the recruit camp, most of the children are geniuses. You can also communicate with each other. Originally, Tuanzi, who was used to practicing swordplay by himself, wanted to refuse, but when he heard about the genius, his eyes lit up and he asked, "Are they all very powerful geniuses?" Garp smiled and said matter-of-factly, "That's not true. The children who can go in there are all trained as reserve cadres of the future Marine. They are naturally different from ordinary people." That said, of course Garp didn't think so in his heart, and naturally he couldn't tell Xiao Tuanzi his true thoughts. When they met for the first time, Garp had already discovered that Tuanzi was special. Even a colonel in Marine could not possess the extremely sharp sword intent in Tuanzi. Not to mention that he felt a terrifying demon in Tuanzi, fruit ability. After seeing Tuanzi practicing swordsmanship with his own eyes in the morning, Garp further confirmed his thoughts. Can those kids in the recruit youth camp be called geniuses? Maybe compared to others, yes, but in front of his little dumpling. Damn. What a genius. It's a pity that Cheng Cheng's grandson was a person who didn't want to talk much, and he didn't want to be in the limelight. As a result, Garp couldn't show off his grandson even if he wanted to, and finally waited until Cheng Cheng became famous in front of everyone. Cheng Cheng quit Marine directly, which made Garp even more embarrassed to mention the matter. Garp chuckled. He could even imagine that those so-called bullshit geniuses would be so surprised and scared to death when they saw Tuanzi, and the entire Marine headquarters would soon know that he was the master of Tuanzi. Thinking of this, Garp became even more impatient. Tuanzi said softly, "It's okay to train together, but I won't fight with them." No fighting, just scaring them is enough. Advertisement. Garp laughed loudly, then saw Tuanzi's confused look, and hurriedly changed his words. "It's okay to train together, but Xiao Tuanzi, when you train, you can make the momentum bigger, the more exaggerated the better. How difficult is it? How come?" Tuanzi, whose cheeks were a little flushed after drinking, looked puzzled again. "Master told me that when practicing swordsmanship, you need to practice the basic skills conscientiously." Garp immediately corrected him seriously. "Hey, Tuanzi, your basic skills are enough now, it's time to challenge yourself." Tuanzi nodded in agreement this time. "Okay, I'll give it a try." Garp was immediately overjoyed. Hey, the day of feeling proud has finally arrived, ha ha ha. It seems that the next step is to figure out how to trick Xiao Tuanzi into becoming Marine. One old and one young, after leaving the courtyard gate, they strode forward. From time to time when he met acquaintances on the road, Garp would say hello with a polite smile and introduce Xiao Tuanzi to others. When those people saw Tuanzi with 3 knives hanging from his waist, they all responded with smiles while being confused. In order to express his goodwill, Tuanzi's face almost froze with laughter. He walked all the way to the Marine recruit youth camp. Tuanzi looked at the surrounding environment and couldn't help but think of his parents. They should have been here before, right? I just don't know who among those in Marine still remembers them. Led by Marine hero Garp, the instructor of the youth camp dared not say a word, so Tuanzi joined in smoothly. All the complicated procedures were skipped, and Tuanzi was only asked to sign his name on a list. After sending the dumplings to the youth camp, Garp left without hesitation and went to work. After Tuanzi was brought into the training camp by a pretty-faced female instructor, he was also shocked by the scene in front of him. The vast indoor training ground covers thousands of square meters. The environment is elegant and clean. The ground is all made of shiny wooden floors. Each floor is closely connected without any gaps. In the middle of the training ground, hundreds of boys and girls were holding Marine standard long swords and swung their swords in unison at the same time, with a rainbow of momentum. Tuanzi couldn't help but exclaimed, "There are so many people." Chapter 135. Crush. Most of these people in the recruit youth camp are the descendants of the Marine headquarters Lieutenant General. The children who can enter here are real geniuses. Otherwise, even if they use their parents' connections to get in, they will not be able to endure the hardships of training here, left on his own within a few days. The children here are about 13 years old and the younger ones are about the same age as Tuanzi. The tall female instructor Debbie is a lieutenant general under 30 years old, and her swordsmanship is superb. Otherwise, she would not be qualified to serve as the instructor of these young geniuses. Debbie took a step forward and clapped her hands. The loud and clear voice echoed in the training room. Everyone who was training stopped. She said, "I would like to introduce a new partner to you. She is Lieutenant General Garps, Jr." Debbie couldn't tell the relationship between the two for a while, so she could only introduce them vaguely. These handsome young geniuses all looked uniformly at the little girl in front of them after hearing the name of the hero Garp. For the first time, Tuanzi felt a little embarrassed to be seen by everyone. He introduced himself to everyone. "My name is Tuanzi, hello." A handsome young man with short hair walked up with a smile, holding a knife in his right hand, waving a knife flower that he thought was handsome, and said with a smile, "My name is Alex, and I am the strongest person in this youth camp. Don't worry, you are a descendant of the hero Garp. No one here will dare to bully you." Others obviously had no objection to Alex's bold words, but some girls had a cold look in their eyes, which was quickly covered up by smiles. Alex has been the undisputed strongest student in the youth camp for 3 consecutive years. Many people have privately speculated that he may become the second Cheng Cheng in the future, and he may also be promoted through that path. The genius who rose like a comet and betrayed Marine, everyone deliberately did not talk about this person in public, and this has formed a tacit understanding in everyone's hearts. It seems that everyone at Marine Headquarters has forgotten about Cheng Cheng, but privately, who doesn't regard Cheng Cheng as their role model? One of the girls with a slim figure walked out with a smile, her blonde hair flowing in the wind. She has always admired Alex, but Alex is like a wooden person, unaware of her kindness at all, and just practices his sword like crazy all day long. But today this little girl came here for the first time, and letting Alex say such words in public was undoubtedly a slap in Bonnie's face. She suppressed some anger and walked forward with a smile. Since you are a junior hero Garp, you must be very powerful. I see that you are also wearing 3 swords. Do you want to save them to open a weapons shop in the future? After he finished speaking, everyone laughed. Debbie said with an unkind expression, Bonnie, watch your words. Advertisement Bonnie, who had blonde hair, just pursed her lips and looked at Tuanzi with a sneer. Tuanzi looked at the giggling Alex in front of him, then at the baffled Bonnie, and sighed. It's so boring, you are all so weak. Then Tuanzi looked at instructor Debbie and asked sincerely, are these people really geniuses? Debbie was speechless for a moment. Alex also looked embarrassed. Although he admired the hero Garp, he was still more concerned about matters related to the honor of the youth camp. Tuanzi gritted his teeth and said, I've already apologized, what else do you want? For a moment, Bonnie felt great fear, as if she was falling into an endless abyss. The blade of the knife she held in both hands trembled involuntarily, and her breathing became rapid. She wanted to slash the arrogant little girl with the knife, but his body seemed to be out of control. Bonnie said coldly, try to compete with me, otherwise you are a coward. You don't know who taught you swordsmanship. You are so hesitant. How can you have the spirit of going forward without looking forward to death? I really doubt that you will use it. Sword. Bonnie sneered and said, oh, no master would ask his apprentice like this. It seems that your master is also a coward. Bonnie's body fell to the ground, her eyes dull as a puddle of mud. For a moment, the eyes he looked at Tuanzi were full of hostility. Tuanzi stopped and held the Dragon Slayer knife tighter, her knuckles turned white. She turned around and stared at Bonnie, saying coldly, you are the one who sought death yourself, you can't blame me. As soon as these words came out, everyone nodded in agreement and looked at Bonnie with a little more admiration. This is the magnanimity our youth camp should have. Since you think we are weak, why not give it a try? If you beat me, you will naturally be qualified to say such arrogant words. If you lose, I hope you can apologize for the extremely arrogant and ignorant words you just made. Everyone else on the training ground looked at the little girl wearing 3 knives with a sneer. Although Bonnie was not as powerful as Alex, she could still fight Alex for more than 10 rounds without losing. Bonnie continued to take a step forward and said, if you don't dare to compete, then apologize directly. For the sake of the hero Garp, we will not bother you about this in the future. Don't leave, are you apologizing? Bonnie nodded slightly. Everyone else in the training ground also looked at Tuanzi silently, obviously not satisfied with this apology. Advertisement Bonnie slowly pulled out the standard long knife. The sword was shining brightly, and she held it in both hands, but Tuanzi still held the Dragon Slayer knife tightly without saying a word. The blade was as steady as a mountain. Her eyes widened and she looked at Tuanzi in horror, as if she was seeing a bloody murderer, and cold sweat dripped down her cheeks. It was definitely not something that the arrogant little girl in front of her could defeat. Everyone cheered. Yes, let's see, your sword is more powerful, we will obey you. The two of them came to the middle of the training ground, and everyone gathered in a circle to give them enough room to play. Tuanzi, who was holding the Dragon Slayer knife tightly, was filled with sword energy. The temperature in the air dropped a few points for a while, and he said calmly, stop talking nonsense. This is not provoking someone in their training camp, but provoking the entire training camp. In Bonnie's eyes, this was undoubtedly the biggest provocation to her. She snorted coldly, if you don't draw your sword, you won't have the chance to draw it. Bonnie didn't sense Tuanzi's intention to apologize at all. Instead, she became even more angry. She shouted angrily, stepped in front of Tuanzi, and said sternly, you are still looking down on us. Everyone in the youth camp laughed and echoed in unison. The female instructor Debbie frowned slightly but still didn't say anything more. Everyone around looked at each other, wondering what was going on. Why did Bonnie, who was so anxious to take action just now, hesitate at the critical moment? Instructor Debbie looked at Tuanzi in shock. After she came to her senses, she immediately flashed and stood in front of Bonnie, taking on most of the pressure for her. Bonnie smiled instead of getting angry. So, are you very strong? Although the people here don't dare to claim to be geniuses, any one of us can easily deal with a dozen adults outside. Even instructor Debbie beside her remained quiet and made no sound. Tuanzi frowned and held the dragon-slaying knife tightly. She bowed slightly to everyone and apologized. I'm sorry, my words just now hurt you, I apologize. After saying that, Tuanzi turned around and walked away with heavy steps. Bonnie, who was full of confidence, felt cold all over for some reason, as if she had fallen into an ice cave. She regained her composure and slowly drew the knife. You still have some guts. Chief Instructor Debbie said sternly. Bonnie, just stop clicking and be careful. Everyone on the training ground who was laughing out loud now became silent. They were recalling what the little girl had just said in their minds, wondering if they had heard it wrong. Tuanzi held the handle of the knife firmly, walked around Bonnie and continued towards the door. I promised Master that I won't fight again within a year. Chapter 136 Luck Rainy Ground. A dazzling white light flashed above the blue clouds, and Cheng Cheng fell rapidly, penetrating the thick clouds, punching a hole in the clouds, and leaving a white trail. However, this spectacular scene was only seen by a baby who had just turned 1 month old, grinning widely, and no one else noticed. After Cheng Cheng passed through the clouds, he quickly stepped on the moonwalk and stabilized his body in the air. After briefly identifying the direction, he flew over Cayenne. On the rooftop of Cayenne, the damage caused by the battle with Kizaru has now been restored to its original state, and there are no traces of the battle. Kosha, who had transformed into Thanos, was in front of the Phantom Beast spirit tree and punched continuously. Every time he swung his fist, a violent shock wave was caused in front of him, and bursts of sonic booms were heard. In the past few days when Cheng Cheng left, he had been beside the Fantasy Beast spirit tree, never leaving. Even now when he saw Cheng Cheng flying over from a distance, he continued to punch. After Cheng Cheng landed on the rooftop, he didn't let Kosha stop. He poured all the water of life that had been accumulated for several days onto the Fantasy Beast spirit tree. As the golden light flickered, the Phantom Beast spirit tree grew 2 new Phantom Beast devil fruits. Both of them had weird shapes and exuded a powerful beastly aura. They were definitely not ordinary at first glance. Cheng Cheng smiled quietly and received the 2 devil fruits into the space ring with satisfaction. Only then did he remember that he didn't know what the Phantom Beast devil fruit Shuya ate was. He looked at Kosha and asked, "Where is Shuya?" Kosha's punch was a little slower, and at the same time he increased the force, making the punch silent. He smiled and said, "She is so happy this time, she took Kabasi and a few brothers out to hunt for treasures." The other people were of different shapes. Among them there was a plump purple-haired woman with tall and plump breasts, but the clothes on her body were very thin. Looking at Cheng Cheng at the moment, drooling at the corner of her mouth, she seemed to want to Cheng Cheng ate it in one bite. Cheng Cheng smiled slightly, knowing that this was Lao Sha's return. This was good news. How many days have they been back, Lao Tu? Rather than die inactively all your life, it is better to experience the power that can destroy the world before dying. Advertisement. Cheng Cheng also became interested and asked curiously, "What treasure are you looking for? Did you find a treasure map while walking on the road?" Just asking them to obey orders is nothing more than death. "I came back 2 days ago," Kosha said truthfully. At the current rate, it would take at least 2 months for all 40 of them to eat devil fruits. Lao Sha slowly raised his head, opened his eyes, and whispered, "Your real master is here." Cheng Cheng was relatively reassured about Lao Sha's ability to do things. After all, this ruthless character almost destroyed an entire country. He even founded the Baroque Working Society. What's exaggerated is that until the last mission, except for Robin, only other agents knew his true identity. How to say? Everyone looked at Cheng Cheng with excited expressions. They already knew these things before coming. Kosha, who was punching heavily, suddenly stopped and slapped his forehead. "By the way, Master National Master, the old man has returned, and he has brought a large group of people with him. He is now in the training room on the 5th floor." Kosha grinned and said, "That's not true. After Shuya ate the devil fruit that day, she transformed into a white fox all white. Only a pair of fox eyes were cyan. Then Shuya said that she seemed to be able to see sparkling lights. The things I saw were incredible treasures." Cheng Cheng nodded and walked straight downstairs. Cheng Cheng murmured softly, "Blue-eyed fox? Can you also hunt for treasure? This is not bad. Let's wait and see what treasures they can find when they come back." Some of them were familiar to Cheng Cheng. They were all former agents of Baroque Company, including Daz, the blade man who had eaten the quick slash fruit, and his partner Zala and Fun Lake, who was both male and female. Cheng Cheng raised the corners of his mouth, spread his arms, and said loudly, "Welcome to my world." This is a powerful, ambitious, and capable hero who only lacks a little bit of luck. Although Cheng Cheng doesn't agree with this kind of person's method of doing things, he still somewhat appreciates his ability. Advertisement. After Cheng Cheng walked in, they all focused their eyes on Cheng Cheng without any surprise and looked at him suspiciously. Since they came here, no one else had taken the initiative to come up. As well as Mr. Five, who once robbed Cheng Cheng, Gem, who has the explosive fruit ability, and his partner Michita, who has the fluttering fruit ability. Michita, who had teased Cheng Cheng before, now looks even more nymphomaniacal. Then he looked at Cheng Cheng. "I have brought these 30 people to you as you requested. I can't control what you do next." Walking slowly into the 5th floor, the layout of this floor is somewhat similar to a martial arts gym. Various training equipment are placed around it, including dumbbells, épée swords, and bamboo knives, all arranged neatly. "I will give you the top Phantom Beast devil fruit, and the price you need to pay is to obey orders and obey my orders unconditionally." Although this speed is already extremely fast, it still feels a bit slow to Cheng Cheng. "You are all chosen by Lao Sha. I don't really care about whether you are loyal or not. What I care about is just whether you are capable enough." Cheng Cheng smiled and waved his hand, scattering a brand new deck of playing cards out like a goddess scattering flowers. Each playing card landed with its back facing up, making it difficult to see the specific numbers on the front. The Phantom Beast devil fruit is a treasure that will be fought over by countless people in the sea. In order to fight for it, countless people have died. From now on, all of you are members of the 2nd Division, and Lao Sha is your captain. When they saw such a young national master admitted again, they couldn't help but tremble. Among the 30 people, the oldest one is a stooped old man with a white beard and shining eyes. The younger one is only about 15 or 16 years old. He is a shirtless young man with short hair and a sharp line on his chest, long scar. But now that there are people, the supply of devil fruit seems to be a bit insufficient. The 30 of them plus Kosha and his team are nearly 40 short of devil fruit. I believe in your willpower. Next, it depends on your luck. Except for those who have already eaten devil fruit abilities, everyone should choose one. Lao Sha, who was dressed in a yellow robe, was leaning against the windowsill in the corner with his eyes closed and meditating. The others, no more, no less, exactly 30 people, including men, women, old and young, each had nothing to do. They were all casually playing with some training in the venue. Utensils, chatting in the south and the north. On the wall in the middle, there is a large calligraphy hanging. Cultivation of the mind is better than cultivation of strength. Chapter 137 Fat Tory. Most people looked puzzled and didn't know what they were doing. Only a small number of people picked up the playing cards scattered at their feet. Cheng Cheng smiled and explained. Currently, there are only a limited number of devil fruits of the phantom beast species, so this is the only way. Whoever has the higher number on the card will have priority to eat devil fruits. Now the remaining 25 people all had serious eyes and made careful choices. Among those who had already picked up the playing cards, some sat down slumped, while others raised their eyebrows and sneered. Under the careful selection of these new members of the second team, the rankings came out quickly. No one expected that the priority for eating devil fruits would be determined in such an absurd and arbitrary way. In addition to the original members of Baroque Studio, only 6 people were selected from the remaining 25 people who had the priority to eat devil fruits. Cheng Cheng looked at the slightly disappointed people and said with a smile, "Those of you who are at the back, there is no need to be disappointed. You can stand in front of me now. I have already explained that you are very lucky. At most 2 months, every one of you will have it." The plump purple-haired woman was named Emily. She was ranked 10th, but she didn't look disappointed at all. She walked up to Cheng Cheng on her long white legs, her upper body trembling, and the earth was shaking. Shake. Emily looked at Cheng Cheng greedily and said in a soft tone, "As long as the Imperial Preceptor is willing to hold me in sleep for a while, even if I don't eat the devil fruit, I will obey the Imperial Preceptor's orders." For a moment, Cheng Cheng felt his eyes were a little dizzy. He smiled and said, "It's okay to hold it while sleeping. You still have to eat the devil fruit. But in addition to the devil fruit, I also have the Rui Golden Cudgel, which can be long or short." "That's not the case. Would you mind discussing with you?" Emily's cheeks were red, her eyes were wandering. She stuck out her tongue and licked the corner of her mouth, making her look even more enchanting. "Master, National Master, you don't know something. Except for Guanyin sitting on the lotus platform, I have never lost in the battle of tongue skills." "Master, please be careful." Michita, who was wearing a yellow short skirt that just covered her thighs, snorted disdainfully, "S*T, I won't let you get ahead of me." Then, not to be outdone, she lifted up the hem of her skirt, twisted her slender waist and leaned over, saying shyly, "Last time, I was too blind to see Taishan, and offended the Imperial Master. Don't blame the Imperial Master." Cheng Cheng, who had just made a little joke, suddenly felt dumbfounded and said helplessly, "Yes, if I hadn't been so powerful, I would have almost been forcibly taken over by you." Michita became more and more shy, lowering her head and saying nothing. The young mother smiled slightly and slapped her son's bare buttocks loudly. It's hard to say whether you can find a wife, but you still want to be a national master." The panicked Emily hurriedly covered the white and tender beauty with her hands, her cheeks turned red, and she said aggrievedly, "This dress is so small." Advertisement. Seeing that he was about to be beaten again, the little kid stopped crying in time and grinned. "Mother, the Imperial Preceptor is really majestic. I will be such a person in the future." Toli, who was fat and bloated, took a step forward, swayed his body and walked to Cheng Cheng, looking greedily at the 3 devil fruits. Cheng Cheng looked at everyone with satisfaction, but just when he looked at the purple-haired woman Emily, a button on her chest suddenly fell off. Everyone looked over in unison, and all the men were in high spirits. After finishing these trivial matters, Cheng Cheng went down and led everyone towards the desert outside Udi. When he met the man in yellow robe who claimed to be an old-fashioned man, it was when he decided to return to his hometown to have a look, but the man told him that if he followed him, he could eat the top-notch phantom beast devil fruit. Tori gritted his teeth and silently told himself that this was the last time. Things after that will consume more energy. The 3 devil fruits now exude the power of ferocious beasts. Cheng Cheng is worried that eating them directly in the rain will cause some unpredictable damage, so he has nothing to worry about in the desert. It was only now that he saw this devil fruit with his own eyes that he dared to confirm that everything in front of him was true. Even though he claimed to be an old-fashioned person, what he promised him was also true. The young mother behind the little kid blushed slightly. She picked up the lollipop on the ground and stuffed it back into the little kid's mouth. She lectured. "It's not that you can't eat it if it falls on the floor. It's not clean. You've eaten it. Sick." The scorching heat made everyone except Cheng Cheng and Ko Sha sweat profusely and soak their clothes. "I will never return home until I become a world-famous pirate." The men in black headed by Cheng Cheng arrived in the desert 10 miles away. Cheng Cheng took out the Great Holy Grail and used the Water of Life to sign contracts with 30 of them one after another. After finishing, Cheng Cheng only felt exhausted and most of his energy was consumed. He didn't even have much appetite for lunch. Advertisement, but the look on each of their faces was full of expectation. He was a pirate who had always been unlucky. He bid farewell to his hometown and went to sea at the age of 20. He left the small island somewhere in West Blue and once made some bold words. Cheng Cheng put his hands in his mouth and made a face at the kid. The lollipop in the kid's mouth was frightened and fell to the ground, and he burst into tears. 3 of them tried their best to hide their emotions, but their excited and trembling hands completely exposed their thoughts. But as he wandered around, he searched countless treasure maps of real and fake devil fruits, but he couldn't eat them once. One time when he was closest to the devil fruit, he already put it in his mouth, but he still couldn't eat it. It was snatched away. Cheng Cheng laughed loudly and was in a good mood. Slowly, his younger brothers left him and joined other pirate groups, leaving him alone on the entire ship. 3 of them are fat, 1 is thin, and 1 is a middle-aged man with a well-proportioned figure. They are all the first people to be eligible to eat the Phantom Beast Devil Fruit this time. Cheng Cheng smiled helplessly. Emily, you have to wear something underneath. After noon, Deputy Store Manager Hans had already brought the black suits for 30 of them. After everyone changed into them, they finally had the appearance of a team. Tori's biggest dream has always been to eat a devil fruit, because only in this way can he become a great pirate. Otherwise, his clumsy body shape will greatly affect his punching speed. Emily's face turned like a red apple, and she whispered, "It's too hot here." After coming back to his senses, Tori stretched out his fat hands, suddenly stuffed a devil fruit into his mouth, and devoured it without hesitation. But this year he was 30, and not only had he achieved nothing, but even the bounty was only a pitiful 5,000 Baileys. So when he was caught by bounty hunters many times later, he was too fat and too tired to carry, dropped halfway. Along the way, the people in the rain saw their group and looked at them with smiles. The little kid eating a lollipop on the roadside stared at the group of men in black. In desperation, Cheng Cheng asked the deputy store manager Hans to get another large-sized dress, and specifically asked the buttons to be reinforced. Chapter 138 Beast War. When another young man saw this, he chose a devil fruit that exuded the scent of a beast and stuffed it into his mouth. His name is Hulua, and he is a young man as thin as a monkey. Although he is wearing a black suit at the moment, his thin body cannot support him. His biggest dream since he was a child was to become a marine. However, after he worked hard to join the marine, he deliberately made things difficult for his boss because he had no money and was fired several times. Later, he set up his own business and went to sea to become a bounty hunter. Although his old and chipped swords could only catch a few small pirates, he could still live a comfortable life. Slowly, one person has gained a bit of fame. He had always longed to gain strength and become stronger, and then he met the old man in a yellow robe. Hulua readily agreed without any hesitation. Cheng Cheng smiled indifferently. Lao Sha was indeed relatively reliable in doing things. Tori and Hulua, who had eaten the demonic beast devil fruit, now exuded an extremely powerful beast power. He could feel the hunger for power in their eyes and their determination to become stronger. This was enough, and it was not a waste of his phantom beast devil fruit. Others were staring at the two of them intently, wanting to see what changes would happen to them. After all, how strong these two people could become meant that they themselves might reach such heights. At this moment, even the purple-haired young woman Emily and the yellow-haired Michita shifted their attention from Cheng Cheng to these two people. Almost at the same time, the auras of the two people suddenly surged. Cheng Cheng shouted, "Everyone retreat immediately." Everyone also felt a sense of danger. After Cheng Cheng's reminder, they quickly spread to the surrounding areas without any hesitation. After they moved away, enough space was provided for Toli and Hulua. Tori, who was the first to eat the devil fruit, roared miserably. A thick tail first grew from his back, and then his body quickly grew taller, and his tail also grew rapidly and became taller than his body. The barbs on the back extended directly to the tail, and the entire body was nearly 30 meters tall, turning into a beast like a Tyrannosaurus Rex, exuding the domineering aura of the king of beasts. Advertisement. Cheng Cheng took a deep breath and subconsciously blurted out, "Godzilla." The two giant beasts silently recited their codenames and were very satisfied. But Bruce's face had no expression and looked calm. Being stepped on by Cheng Cheng, King Kong also made a hoarse voice. "My life, Hulua, will only belong to you, the national preceptor." For a moment, everyone was breathing heavily and looking at the master. How powerful is the master who can cultivate the devil fruit of phantom beasts? Bruce, just watch from the sidelines now. Your body type is not suitable for fighting with the two of them at the moment. Except for Lao Sha, who was wearing a yellow robe and couldn't see his expression clearly, everyone else in the second division looked dull, as if they were petrified. They looked at the two mountain-like giant beasts in front of them, and their eyes were filled with fear. Cheng Cheng smiled indifferently, tapped his toes, rose up from the ground, and landed firmly on King Kong's huge head. Then Vajra Hulua felt the huge pressure on his head loose. He tried it and was able to stand up smoothly. He sincerely admired the national preceptor standing above him even more. King Kong and Godzilla seemed not to hear anything and continued to fight fiercely. Cheng Cheng nodded and smiled. "Get up, it's time to go back, but I want to give you two a codename. From now on, you will be Vajra Hulua and Godzilla Tori." They are very convinced that as long as they eat devil fruit, they can become stronger. Cheng Cheng was dumbfounded, then laughed loudly and said with emotion, "It's really good. Maybe we can make movies with the two of them in the future." Except for ordinary people like them who have not eaten the devil fruit, even the original agents of Baroque works are looking at the two huge ferocious beasts with horrified expressions at this moment, with deep fear in their eyes. His right foot suddenly shook. It seemed that there was not much movement, but the next moment King Kong suddenly knelt down on his knees and was pinned to the ground. He held his hands on the ground to prevent himself from falling. King Kong's figure leapt up, jumped high, put his fists together and slammed them towards Godzilla's head. The huge fists were packed with incomparable ferocious power, as if even if there was a mountain peak in front of him, he can also be smashed with one punch. Cheng Cheng looked extremely small at this moment. Advertisement in the sky full of yellow sand, King Kong and Godzilla fought fiercely. The two giant beasts came and went, fighting each other. Every collision would bring a strong wind. However, the other members of the second division could no longer treat the two of them as ordinary people, and their eyes were full of awe and envy. Cheng Cheng smiled and said, I know you are already eager to take action, so let's give each other a try, but that's the point. After all, this is your first time to transform, and your control over your body strength is still very limited. The huge fists collided with the barbed tail, but no matter how fierce the battle was, there was no hatred in Tully and Huluwa's eyes, only the hearty joy. Bruce nodded indifferently, just getting familiar with the new ability in the air. The skinny monkey-like figure of Huluwa also expanded rapidly, growing thick hair. After a few breaths, he turned into a giant ape with the same height as Godzilla. The giant ape roared, beat his chest quickly with both fists, and exuded the momentum that comes out as not inferior to that of Godzilla. Cheng Cheng took a rough look at the status of the two of them and knew that they were almost done practicing. If they continued fighting, there would inevitably be casualties, so he said softly, Okay, everyone, please stop. When they reached the edge of the rainfield, Cheng Cheng let King Kong Huluwa and Godzilla totally put away their transformation states and transformed into a fat man and a skinny monkey young man again. There was an earth-shattering sound in an instant, and a strong wind was stirred up. The wind and sand rolled up, picking up yellow sand all over the sky, and even the ground shook slightly. As for the other middle-aged man, Bruce, he was relatively calm. After silently eating the gray phantom beast fruit, he turned into a gray griffin. Judging from the size alone, he was weaker than the other two, too much. All of them held their breath for a while, just looking up at the two majestic beasts. Soon, their eyes changed from fear to excitement. Godzilla, who was still trying to continue fighting, finally calmed down, knelt down on one knee, and bowed deeply to the National Preceptor who was standing on top of King Kong's head. National Preceptor, from now on, I, General Tori, will always loyal to you. Boom. Godzilla and King Kong also nodded at the same time, and then the two strangers looked at each other, and both collided mercilessly. Godzilla's reaction was no slower than King Kong's. He took a step back first, and then swung his thick tail like a whip, causing bursts of sound to break through the air. Cheng Cheng stood just above King Kong's head, with the two giant beasts in front, followed by the other men in black, and the group marched home in a mighty manner. Chapter 139 God of Wealth. Along the way, Emily, a plump woman who was swaying every step of the way, often nuzzled beside Cheng Cheng, asking if she had anything from time to time. It was not that she wanted to obtain the qualification to eat the phantom beast devil fruit in advance, but the more she looked at it, the more she felt that the Imperial Master was unparalleledly handsome. Compared with him, all those pretty boys she had seen before could be reincarnated and recreated. The two are as different as clouds and mud, and cannot be compared in heaven or on earth. Cheng Cheng could only endure two huge pressures and walked forward with heavy steps. Back to Cayenne. Cheng Cheng asked Hans to arrange waiter jobs for all the members of the second team in the casino. By the way, he used this reason to directly transfer Emily away from him. Otherwise, if he allowed Emily to keep struggling like this, Cheng Cheng would still. I was really afraid that if my heart got hot that day, I would let this woman succeed. Although he has thoughts that every man has, he has higher requirements for himself. Especially for the first time in his life, he must be careful and selective. Especially when he already has the Empress of the daughter country in his heart, it is even more impossible to let the cow like Emily succeed at will. Emily has a plump figure and a good-looking face, but after all, it is because of her age that she is a little bit older. Cheng Cheng, who was climbing the stairs, sighed. It seems it's time to find a chance to go to Daughter's Island. System. Do you have a mission to check in at Daughter Island? Uncle, yes. Close black lens bracket. Then what are you waiting for? Let's get started. Uncle, Daughter Island is the second mission. Close black lens bracket. What about the first one? Where is it? Uncle, this is the Sabo Islands. Close black lens bracket. Cheng Cheng was silent. The Sabo Islands was where he had to go no matter what. Otherwise, even if he had Kizaru as a hidden clue, Luffy and the others would still be in danger. After all, his appearance had affected the balance of the world to a certain extent. As for Rayleigh of the Sabo Islands, if he can be convinced, then he will truly have the confidence to fight on the top. Advertisement. This Pluton Rayleigh is no less ruthless than Whitebeard. However, Cheng Cheng roughly calculated the time. It would take some time for Luffy and the others to reach the Sabo Islands, so he could only wait. Even though Cheng Cheng thought he had seen a lot of money, he still stared at Shuya dumbfounded, looked her up and down, and exclaimed, "You will be the god of wealth in our Cayenne from now on. So, let's think about whether there are other ways to make the people happier. Needless to say, your old-fashioned murderous plan." Cheng Cheng stood up and sighed. "Well, for this reason, I will tell the truth to you too. You all know that devil fruit can grow on this magical beast spirit tree. It is an important thing to cultivate. One of the conditions is to make more people live happily." Lao Sha looked at Cheng Cheng in confusion. "Master, Imperial Master, what do you want by doing this? I don't believe there are selfless people in the world. Those sanctimonious people want nothing more than fame and fortune, as well as my own unexplainable selfishness. Towns across the country have now abolished ghettos because there are no people in them now." Shuya chuckled and said proudly, "There are about 3 tons of gold coins, plus several other boxes of jewelry and diamonds. The value is about 1 billion Baileys." Kosha took a sip of wine and said, "Now, Master National Master, you have done enough. Most of the poor people in Alabasta have also made money by planting trees. There are very few truly poor people now." Cheng Cheng looked surprised and said, "How much gold did you get? How can you actually make a Marine Lieutenant General so greedy that he takes action?" Cheng Cheng sneered, "Who is the same as you? Laozi asked for their welfare, but you want to kill them, they are the same ***. Lao Sha mocked. I see, no wonder the Imperial Master works so hard. It seems that both of us are the same thing, and we are all using them to achieve our own goals. Cheng Cheng stood under the Fantasy Beast Spirit Tree, looked at Ko Sha who was practicing with his eyes closed, and asked, how long will it take for Shuya and the others to come back? After a while, Lao Sha, who had nothing to do, came to the balcony. The three of them sat around the round table, each holding a glass of wine in their hands, sitting casually. Kusha opened his eyes and stood up. Shuya just sent the news, saying that she will arrive in the afternoon, and from what she said, it seems that the harvest this time is not small. Kosha said slowly. There is no doubt that the great master of the state is a kind and benevolent gentleman. You don't need to understand the reason, just know that there is a relationship between the two. Cheng Cheng continued. Call Lao too, and we will hold a small meeting. Advertisement. Cheng Cheng frowned slightly, not having time to appreciate Shuya's graceful curves, and asked, what happened? Don't worry and tell me slowly. Later, Kabasi took action and had a big battle with the Marine Lieutenant General. No one could do anything to anyone, but our ship was also chopped up by the Lieutenant General, and the gold and jewelry sank into the water. Cheng Cheng said directly to the gate of opening, I'm afraid the tree planting activity won't last long. If it weren't for the additional 800 million belly from the king, our capital chain would have been broken by now. No wonder, you have so much money on board. If it were me, I would steal it too. Lao Sha shut up and remained silent. At this time, there was a sound of heavy footsteps at the balcony stairs. Shuya ran up with her face flushed and panting. The clothes all over her body were soaked with sweat and clung to her body, making Shuya's uneven body curves more obvious. After Shuya raised her glass and drank it all, she finally recovered a little, and her whole body leaned limply on the handrail of the stairs. Cheng Cheng nodded and didn't take it to heart. Ordinary small money didn't have much effect on him now. This time it was just a tree planting activity, and he spent nearly 1 billion. Cheng Cheng looked at Lao Sha helplessly. Why do you always tell me all the evil ways? Although it may be useful, there are still too many hidden dangers in this matter later. If it causes people to panic and some unknown danger occurs, then it goes against our intention. Cheng Cheng was in a good mood and laughed. Lao Sha continued. If you want to get things done without spending money, it's better to let our people pretend to be pirates and make a big fuss in the royal city and palace, and then you come forward to solve the problem. Then these stupid people will thank you even more. Quote. She couldn't care less about her lapse at the moment. After her eyes found Cheng Cheng, she hurriedly said, Master Imperial Master, something happened. Originally, our ship has almost arrived at the port. As expected, the gold will be delivered smoothly in the afternoon. However, it was intercepted by a Marine Lieutenant General at sea. He insisted that we were pirates and robbed us. Gold. Ko Sha picked up a glass of wine and walked over to hand it to Shuya. Drink some first to moisten your throat. I see your voice is hoarse when you speak. Of course we won't agree. In addition, the other party has been provoking Kabas. Kabas accidentally injured a Marine in anger, and the other party became even more reluctant and started to snatch it away. Master National Preceptor, you should have all these things by now. Why are you still so persistent on this matter? Kosha said. After all, the key problem now is still the lack of money. Now Cayenne's heritage is also experiencing negative growth every day. Without other sources of income, that kind of tree activity cannot continue for too long. Lao Sha snorted coldly and continued, it's not my money. Chapter 140. Who wants to fight? Shuya clasped her waist with both hands and said anxiously, Master Imperial Master, we must go quickly, otherwise the support force from Marine will probably arrive first. Although Lieutenant General Marine has temporarily retired, I don't think they will give up. We must salvage the gold before Marine. In that case, Lao Sha, you take Godzilla Toli and Vajrahulua and we go together. Kosha, you should stay here to look after the house. Cheng Cheng nodded and continued to ask. By the way, do you know the name of that Marine Lieutenant General? Kabasi is good, he can actually win or lose with a Marine Lieutenant General. Shuya recalled. I don't know the man's name, but he had a very tall skull, a very long beard, and he was very powerful with 2 swords in his hands. It was he who chopped up our ship with his 2 swords. Cheng Cheng narrowed his eyes. It's Stoloberg. It's not a big problem. He is one of the 5 lieutenant generals who participated in the Buster Call on Judiciary Island. His strength is not weak among the lieutenant generals, but he didn't expect that he was repelled by Kabasi's snow bear. Kabasi actually gave himself a big surprise. Cheng Cheng took a group of them, Shuya, Laosha, and 5 people from the original Baroque working group, Toli and King Kong Hulua, on a merchant ship down the Sundola River. The other members of the 2nd Division are still working as waitresses at the Cayenne Casino, especially the purple-haired woman Emily, who has only stayed in Cayenne for a few days and has become a beautiful sight in Cayenne. Without a few words of provocation from Emily, those rich people would unconsciously double their shots, and they would only see them but not get them. The more this happened, the harder those rich people would work to show off their strong financial resources. As for the Overlord Forced Bow, those people could only think about it in their hearts. After all, this is the territory of the Imperial Master. By the afternoon, the merchant ship soon reached the Shungdola River and passed Yuba. When Cheng Cheng first saw Yuba, it seemed that earth-shaking changes had taken place. There are no building ruins on both sides of the strait, and they have turned into dense groves. The environment is clean and tidy, with green grass on the ground. Occasionally, a pale yellow unknown wildflower can be found among the wild grasses, swaying in the wind. Everyone else on the boat looked at the endless green saplings, unable to believe that this was a sight they could see in the desert. Advertisement: after passing the junction with the sea, after the merchant ship entered the sea from the river, the world instantly became vast, and the field of vision became extremely wide. The line between sea and sky can't be seen to the end. Cheng Cheng stood proudly on the bow of the boat, looking at the endless blue waves of the sea, and felt a little more relaxed. It seems that there is a reason why so many people like to be pirates. It is indeed better than the scenery in the desert. It's just that I am controlled by the Phantom Beast Spirit Tree and cannot transfer it. It would be great if there was a way to carry the Phantom Beast Spirit Tree with me. Cheng Cheng glanced at Godzilla Tori and smiled. We have to hurry up. We can't really be forced by the opposite marine. Tori, you can transform into Godzilla. Godzilla is good at water-based, so he shouldn't be. It will be controlled by the sea. You try it. If it doesn't work, I will catch you again. Toli patted his big belly and said proudly, leave it to me. These are all small things. Over the years, I have lost count of the number of times I have drank seawater. After speaking the heroic words, Toli first took a few steps back, then sprinted on the deck, and his whole fat figure crashed into the sea, like a bomb, causing a splash of several meters high. A few breaths later, just when Cheng Cheng wanted to go to the sea to rescue Toli, a huge black shadow appeared below the sea surface, and rows of sharp protruding barbs were revealed, cutting through the sea surface while swimming. For a time, all the small fish and shrimps near the merchant ship fled in all directions. Even some Poseidon species lurking in the depths of the seabed became more silent and crawled on the seabed. Cheng Cheng jumped up and landed on Godzilla's head. He said loudly to the people behind him, let's take a step first. You don't have to worry. The other party may not be faster than us. Cheng Cheng stood above Godzilla, looking very small. One person and one giant beast just rode the wind and waves away, much faster than the merchant ship, and soon left them behind. In order not to scare Kabasi and other members of the first team immediately, Cheng Cheng asked Tuli to dive as low as possible, making it look like Cheng Cheng was gliding quickly on the sea alone. Floating like a fairy on the sea, walking on the waves. Not long after, Cheng Cheng saw the dilapidated merchant ship in front of him. The entire hull was broken in the middle, and the hull and stern were separated. It was floating on the sea and had not yet sunk to the bottom of the sea. Broken wooden boards were floating everywhere on the sea around it. Kabasi and several other members of the first team, a total of 7 or 8 people, were crowded into a small boat. Advertisement: when they were still far away, Kabasi stood up honestly and greeted Cheng Cheng. The boat, which was already heavily loaded, began to shake violently. Cheng Cheng smiled indifferently, and after seeing that they only suffered minor injuries, he breathed a sigh of relief and joked. Yes, you can make Marine Lieutenant General Stolberg return without success. You are worthy of being a member of my first team. Kaba scratched his head even more embarrassedly. The gold still sank to the bottom of the sea. The depth of the water here is at least 1,000 meters. It is too difficult to salvage the gold. Cheng Cheng smiled slightly. It might have been difficult before, but now that we have Godzilla Tori, it's much easier. After saying that, Cheng Cheng straightened up, the sea around him swayed, and Godzilla Tori's huge head was revealed, and he said, don't worry, leave everything to me. Kabasi and everyone on the boat were all shocked. They looked dumbfounded at the huge sea beast as big as a Poseidon in front of them. What shocked them the most was that this huge sea beast could actually speak. Cheng Cheng fell down, stepped on the sea and explained softly, he is a member of our second division, and he will be your partner from now on, and we will all get along well. Everyone on the boat nodded silently, obviously still not recovering from the shock, but they thought of Kabasi's ferocious behavior just after transforming into the snow demon bear, and they slowly felt relieved, and couldn't help but feel sad in their hearts. Looking forward to eating devil fruits soon too. The sea breeze was blowing, it was extremely cool, and the time passed quickly. When Godzilla Tori surfaced for the first time, the merchant ship Shuya and the others were on arrived, and they were busy transporting the entire box of gold coins to the ship. Then Godzilla Tori dived again and recovered all the remaining gold and jewelry. The entire ship was piled with gold coins, jewelry, and diamonds. If it weren't for this large merchant ship, it would be difficult for an ordinary small ship to bear this weight. The group of them had just finished their work and were about to return home when more than a dozen black cannonballs roared towards them from high in the sky. Bang bang bang. They all exploded around the merchant ship, and the entire merchant ship shook violently in an instant. In the distance on the sea ahead, 7 marine warships rushed over quickly, not even giving Cheng Cheng and his merchant ship a chance to explain. Cheng Cheng, who had discovered those battleships a long time ago, looked calmly at the crowd and said calmly, everyone who wants to fight. Chapter 141. If he is the king, I will be the emperor. Tori, who transformed into Godzilla on the sea, immediately shouted loudly, Master National Preceptor, let me go, watch me hit him to pieces. Seeing that Toli had made great achievements but he had not yet played any role, King Kong Hulu stepped forward and said loudly, Master National Preceptor, I will go. I can smash those little pieces of garbage with one punch. Not to be outdone, the old people of Baroque Works took a step forward. They didn't want to be outdone by the newcomers who had just eaten the devil fruit. They were determined and would not hesitate to die. Cheng Cheng smiled quietly and said with a pleased expression, let's go together and beat me to death. You actually stole the money from me. I wonder if Laozi is still short of money now? For a moment, except for Cheng Cheng, Lao Sha, and Shuya, almost all the other devil fruit ability users landed on Godzilla Tori's back, looking at the 7 marine battleships in front of them with ferocious faces, without any fear. After a few breaths, Godzilla Tori's huge black shadow hid the first battleship, and the battleship was almost knocked over. All the Marines exclaimed, "The Poseidon class is coming! The Poseidon class is coming!" At the moment of impact, King Kong Hulua jumped up high and transformed into a 30-meter-tall King Kong giant ape. He stepped on the first swaying battleship with both feet at the same time. The entire battleship sank by more than half in an instant, and the water surface fell to flood the deck. Those Marines who were under King Kong's feet were trampled directly into pulp and died inexplicably. The other Cayenne employees flying far away over the sea were not only shocked, but also rushed towards Marine, unwilling to be outdone. Vajra Hulua still didn't give up. He raised a huge fist weighing 1,000 kilograms and smashed it towards the deck below. But at this time, Stoloberg, who arrived in time, stopped him with his domineering double swords, and the two fought each other. Not only that, after Stoloberg was repelled by Kabasi before, he also contacted his friend Gumir, who was also Marine Lieutenant General. This Gumil is the commander of the Marine G2 branch and one of the disciples of Marine General Black Arm Zephyr. He is also the one who hangs the words, "Unhurried Justice," in his office. He is a powerful figure among the many lieutenant generals in Marine, and he is a fellow disciple with Kizaru. After receiving Stoloberg's signal, Gumir immediately led his troops to set off without saying a word. The fat Gumir had two swords hanging on his waist. He stared at the scene in front of him, touched his bald head, and slowly drew out the two swords. Advertisement: he has experienced countless wars, big and small, in his life. He has already put life and death aside, and he smiled. No matter which force you are from, it seems that I can have a good fight today. Then the bald Gumir, wrapped in domineering energy, stepped on the moonwalk and fought with Godzilla, who flicked his tail wantonly in the sea and destroyed the battleship. Cheng Cheng and the others, who were far away from the turmoil of the battle, were all paying attention to the visually impactful battle scene in front of them. Lao Sha slapped the railing with both hands and asked, "How about I go and play too?" Cheng Cheng chuckled and said, "The two sides are about the same strength now. It would be boring if you also joined the war." Lao Sha narrowed his eyes and said softly, "If I don't go, I will be left alive." Cheng Cheng sighed and thought of the Phantom Beast spirit tree that could not be moved. If he could take the Phantom Beast spirit tree with him, why would he have such worries? He would not be as cautious and careful as he is now. Hide your identity. It seems that when I go back this time, it is time to consider the work of transferring the magical beast spirit tree. But he also knew that there was little hope. Cheng Cheng stared at the battlefield ahead and sighed. "In that case, you'd better go. It's really not convenient for our identities to be exposed now." Lao Sha smiled coldly, jumped onto a small wooden boat, and drifted forward, not afraid at all because there was water under his feet. Cheng Cheng, who had always been extremely confident in Lao Sha's ability to do things, no longer looked at the battlefield ahead. With Lao Sha's joining, the battle situation would soon become one-sided. He turned to look at Shuya and asked curiously, "How did you find so much gold? Where did you find it?" Shuya raised her eyebrows, pointed at her eyes, and said proudly, "This should be the special ability of my blue-eyed spirit fox phantom beast species. After turning into a spirit fox, the world has changed in my eyes. There are so many things in the surrounding space. I caught countless light beams, and later I discovered that where the light beams were brighter, there were more treasures, and they were all unknown treasures. At first, with these eyes, I picked up a lot of money in the rain. Later, I thought that I could find more treasures on the sea after leaving the rain, so I rented it with Kabasi and the others. A boat went on an adventure on the sea. Advertisement: fortunately, the harvest along the way was pretty good." Cheng Cheng stepped forward and opened a very shabby-looking mahogany box. In an instant, it was glittering with gold, and it was filled with heavy gold coins. He smiled and praised, "This is more than good. What you have gained in these few days is worth the bounty of several supernovae." Shuya wondered, "Who is supernova?" Cheng Cheng explained with a smile, "Those people are all pirates with a bounty of more than 100 million belly. They are also extremely powerful and are known as the extremely evil generation." Shuya's eyes exuded a brilliant blue light, and she retorted, "I don't care how powerful they are definitely not as powerful as the National Preceptor." Cheng Cheng laughed loudly. His current strength can indeed crush anyone in the supernova. If he also became a pirate, I'm afraid there would be no other supernova to deal with. He should be called the Fifth Emperor. Looking at Shuya, who was hesitating, Cheng Cheng smiled and said, "If you have anything to do, just say it. It doesn't matter. You are now the god of wealth in our Cayenne." Shuya solemnly said, "Since we have already started a war with Marine, we might as well take this opportunity to form a pirate group specializing in treasure hunting at sea. In this way, we will always have a steady stream of gold and will not be afraid of running out." Cheng Cheng's eyes narrowed and he considered it carefully in his mind. Indeed, after establishing the pirate group, it became much more legitimate to go out to sea to hunt for treasure. In addition, Kosa and Kabasi really need some actual combat experience, and it is still too slow to improve their strength behind closed doors. Cheng Cheng said, "We can consider this matter, but my identity as a national master cannot be exposed now." Shuya said happily, "No, it's still us Kabasi who are old-fashioned, so we don't need your intervention at all, Master National Master." Cheng Cheng gently picked up a golden gold coin and raised the gold coin high. The sun shone on it, making it even more golden. He looked at the vast and boundless sea and thought to himself, "Luffy, that silly boy, knows that he wants to be One Piece. Although I have no interest in the legendary treasure, as One Piece's brother, my name cannot be too weak. If Luffy becomes king one day, I will proclaim myself emperor." Chapter 142 Black Justice. The originally unfair battle at sea soon became one-sided with the addition of Lao Sha. Most of the 7 battleships were demolished by Godzilla Toli and King Kong Hulava. Most of the Marines were drowned. Only a small number actually died at the hands of Cayenne employees. The 2 Marine lieutenant generals didn't even have time to report to the headquarters before the bodies sank into the sea. On the sea, there are floating wreckage of battleships and corpses of Marines that have not yet sunk into the sea. After all the Cayenne employees returned to the ship, Cheng Cheng said expressionlessly, "Retreat." After returning to Cayenne, Cheng Cheng strolled toward the rooftop alone. Beside the Phantom Beast spirit tree, Kusha was the only one lifting dumbbells weighing several tons, swaying profusely. Cheng Cheng picked up the wine, poured himself a glass slowly, and stared blankly at the Fantasy Beast spirit tree. It seems that we really need to consider the transfer of the Phantom Beast spirit tree, otherwise one person would have to be left to guard the spirit tree, which would be really inconvenient. If Kusha follows suit and practices on the sea, his powerful ability to destroy the Phantom Beast species cannot be ignored. Cheng Cheng suddenly had a thought in his mind. Could he transfer the Phantom Beast spirit tree into the space ring? The previous planting conditions were in the desert, but now the Phantom Beast spirit tree has taken root in the void. Does this mean that it has escaped the restrictions of the desert? Just do it. Cheng Cheng's eyes were suddenly filled with excitement. He stood up and walked quickly to the Phantom Beast spirit tree. The golden branches and leaves slowly floated and rustled in the breeze. After stretching out his fingers and touching a golden leaf in front of him, a golden light suddenly emitted from the space ring. The Phantom Beast spirit tree on the rooftop instantly disappeared out of thin air, and in the center of the space ring, there was an extra Phantom Beast spirit tree emitting golden light. But after a while, the golden light on the Phantom Beast spirit tree dimmed, and the golden leaves fell off. The golden leaves falling in the void were directly blown away by the wind and turned into little golden lights. The roots that were originally rooted in the void to obtain energy became manic at this moment, twisting crazily in the void and unable to find a place to take root. Advertisement not good. Cheng Cheng's heart was shocked, and he immediately moved the Phantom Beast spirit tree back, and returned to the balcony. The Phantom Beast spirit tree slowly regained its vitality, its roots were inserted into the void again, and the entire spirit tree emitted a faint golden light. Cheng Cheng, who breathed a sigh of relief, quickly walked over and drank a glass of wine to calm down his shock. Fortunately, he moved out in time. If the Fantasy Beast spirit tree had not been stolen or snatched away, it would have been destroyed by him. This is simply a big joke. Kusha, who was holding the dumbbells, slowed down the movements in his hands, frowned slightly, and then continued to exercise as if he didn't notice. The golden phantom tree is reflected in the wineglass. Cheng Cheng was thoughtful and quickly put down his wineglass and decided to try again. This time, he wanted to completely simulate a 100% restored desert environment in the space ring. Cheng Cheng immediately summoned the somersault cloud, flew out of the rainy land on the somersault cloud, and soon landed in a desert. The sun is scorching right now, and the temperature on the desert ground is as high as 50 degrees. A faint white smoke will emit from your shoes when you step on the desert. Every step you take is like walking in magma, which is extremely hot. It's just that Cheng Cheng's body has long been immune to these high temperatures that can kill people. The space ring flashed with golden light, and a large amount of yellow sand poured into the space ring like a waterfall. After a while, there were 2 space rings the size of basketball courts inside, all covered by extremely hot yellow sand. In order to restore the desert ecological environment to the greatest extent, Cheng Cheng also looked around for some desert-specific plants such as cactus, aloe vera, poplar euphratica, golden amber, and tamarisk. After adding these plants, he nodded with satisfaction. It finally looks like a desert. After returning to the Cayenne rooftop, Cheng Cheng immediately transferred the Fantasy Beast spirit tree to the space ring again. Conduct a second trial. However, the difference from the first time was not very big. The Phantom Beast spirit tree quickly became like last time and slowly lost its vitality. Looking at the Phantom Beast spirit tree that continued to wither, Cheng Cheng could only transfer it out again. Cheng Cheng, who was thinking hard to find the reason, could only attribute the reason to different spaces. Living things could not be stored in the space ring, so he could only put this matter aside and not think about it for the time being. Advertisement in the following time, Cheng Cheng prepared to establish a pirate group. The current number of people in Cayenne is enough, but those people just lack enough experience, plus the treasure hunting ability of Shuya's Qingyan Spirit Fox Phantom Beast. This newly established pirate group will bring him a steady stream of sufficient funds. As for the personnel structure of this pirate group, there are basically no major adjustments. In the 2 divisions headed by Kusha and Lao Sha, everyone who signed the contract is a member of the pirate group. The only change was that Shuya was appointed as the navigator of the pirate group, responsible for controlling the navigation direction and destination. Except for Cheng Cheng, the captain whose identity cannot be revealed for the time being, all ships must obey Shuya's arrangements. In short, their pirate group has only one purpose, to go wherever there is treasure. To say it is a treasure hunting group would be more appropriate. But when they were holding the second staff meeting, Kusha asked him the name of the pirate group, and Cheng Cheng was stumped by this question. If you don't choose a more domineering name, how will you become emperor in the future? For this reason, Cheng Cheng drank a large jar of wine one after another, but he couldn't come up with a good and domineering name. Cheng Cheng despised the current powerful pirate groups, not to mention their strength, just in terms of their names, as they were too simple and casual. It's either white beard, red hair, black beard, straw hat, etc. It's just that you are so careless that you choose names at will. It's too uneducated. As for their new pirate ship, they did not waste time on redesigning and manufacturing it, but only made some simple improvements and reinforcements on a large merchant ship. 7 days later, 2 devil fruits condensed on the Phantom Beast spirit tree again, and they were all eaten by the members of the second division. One is a blood shadow beast that can transform into bleeding mist and attack, and the other is a red flame beast that can spit out flames. Both are huge in size. Although they are not as exaggerated as King Kong and Godzilla, they are also about the size of an ordinary ship. The power cannot be underestimated. During these 7 days, Cheng Cheng finally came up with the name of a pirate group that he believed to be extremely domineering. So Shuya, Kosha, and the others were immediately called to the rooftop. Cheng Cheng looked at everyone, looked up to the sky, took a sip of wine, suddenly smashed the wine glass to pieces, and said proudly, "From now on, we will be the Black Justice Pirates." Chapter 143 On the Importance of Time. 3 days later, a huge pirate ship quietly appeared on the Sundora River along the coast of Rainland. Cheng Cheng led everyone to watch their pirate ship on the riverbank and nodded with satisfaction. Although this time it was a pirate ship converted from a merchant ship, the cost was not low at all. Moreover, Shuya, the most aesthetic person among them, was asked to be responsible for the overall transformation. In addition, people from the second team who had pirate experience were responsible for making suggestions and providing reference opinions. If this pirate ship is left in charge of Lao Sha, Cheng Cheng can imagine that it will definitely be full of nouveau riche style. The entire hull is just parked on the coast, like a sharp sword cutting through the water. In front of the bow is a giant sword, which looks somewhat similar to Cheng Cheng's Zhenhai sword. There are flowers and plants planted around the deck, and the environment is elegant. There are a total of 12 cannons set up around the railings, and there is a cannon twice as big on the bow. There is also a cute pink swing in the corner of the deck, which Shuya specially reserved for Tuanzi. 3 swords are depicted on the huge pirate flag, with a broad sword standing upright in the middle and 2 long swords crossing on the left and right. Although the ship has only 3 floors, the space inside is very vast and has everything you need. The first floor is a boys' room with bunk beds. There is a public wash basin at the entrance. The toothbrushes and towels are all brand new, and there is also an exquisite small brass alarm clock for timing. In the middle is the treasure house, which is sealed with thick iron doors. The sides of the treasure house are also reinforced with fine steel. Even if the entire hull is damaged, the treasure house will still be safe. In Shuya's words, it is a foolproof copper wall. Even if it is a foolproof iron wall, it's easy to salvage if it sinks to the bottom of the water. The second floor is the girls' room, which is also a bunk bed structure and is more refined than the first floor. Next door is the kitchen and storage room for ingredients, which are filled with grain, dried meat, vegetables and fruits. There is only one captain's room on the 3rd floor, and the remaining space is filled with jars of various fine wines. The mellow smell of fine wine fills the entire 3rd floor. Cheng Cheng was very satisfied with the ship at the first sight and immediately said, "Let's call it the Black Justice." Kosha shook his head. "You can practice sparring, but please don't turn into blonde hair, master. I really can't bear it." The top management of the Marine headquarters was furious and regarded this incident as the biggest shame after Judiciary Island. They immediately sent General Kizaru to lead a large number of Marines to hunt down. Kizaru happily accepted the order and vowed to fight the Black Justice Pirates until death. Advertisement for a time, the limelight directly exceeded those of the so-called supernovas. Pirates big and small were talking about the origin of the Black Justice Pirates and exchanging everything they knew. Countless people are guessing how big a blockbuster the Black Justice Pirates captain will be when he appears. In the past few days, I turned into a Super Saiyan on the rooftop every day, and then swung my sword crazily, trying to simulate actual combat as much as possible. He finally got a rough figure. Although countless people are talking about this pirate group that seemed to be born out of thin air, they know very little about him. There is only a picture of a man in yellow robe with a bounty of 500 million belly. The man's face cannot be seen clearly. I only know that his name is old too. While everyone was discussing the Black Justice Pirates, Cheng Cheng, the national advisor of Alabasta and the captain of the Black Justice Pirates, was on the rooftop of Cayenne, waving the sea-suppressing sword with both hands, sweating like raindrops. "How about General Thanos? Let's continue." Fortunately, Kosa's defense was strong enough and his recovery ability was incomparable. After lying in the hot desert pit for an hour, he patted his butt and limped towards the rainy land. Cheng Cheng smiled and said, "Sure enough, it is a wise decision to hand Shu Ya as the chief designer. Starting today, our Black Justice Pirates will be officially established." Kosha, whose throat was about to smoke, immediately poured a glass of wine. After drinking it, he said, "Master Imperial Master, your sword is too cruel. I can still stand under the Zhenhai sword when I have clear hair. After a few hard fights, why did you become so much stronger after turning into blonde hair?" The next day, shocking news came from the sea. The most important thing is that this great pirate with a bounty of 500 million baileys is actually just the captain of the Black Justice Pirates. Cheng Cheng smiled and explained, "It's not a phantom beast fruit. How should I put it? You can understand it as a fighting move that only I can learn in this world." Lao Sha chuckled and took a step forward. "In that case, I'll go to sea first. As for the captain's identity and name, the amount of the reward is unknown." Kosha, who was originally able to withstand a few strikes from Cheng Cheng, was slashed thousands of meters away by the sword after the Imperial Master turned blonde, and was knocked out of the rain, causing him to fall, in the rainy desert. Advertisement Cheng Cheng, whose white hair had long since returned, said, "There is no chance today. Even if you want to be chopped again, I can't do it." Facing the concerned and strange looks from the people along the way, Kusha just smiled and explained, it's okay, this is a real combat drill between the Imperial Master and don't get me wrong, I did not betray the Imperial Master. Only then did everyone smile and ask about Kusha's injury, full of sincere concern. Cheng Cheng, who was standing on the balcony, saw Kusha slowly coming back with his butt covered, and he smiled and praised. As expected of General Thanos, he recovered so quickly after taking one strike from my Super Saiyan state. Oh, originally I thought you were going to lie outside for 3 to 5 days. Ko Sha smiled ferociously and flew onto the ship. Don't worry, I know what the Imperial Master means. Cheng Cheng stared at Lao Sha and said, don't kill those who shouldn't be killed, and don't let go of those who should be killed. Our Black Justice pirates are not afraid of anyone. Is this the National Preceptor's Phantom Beast Devil Fruit? Kosha drank another glass of wine and said with resentful eyes, I just want to improve my strength by sparring with the Imperial Master, and I don't want to be hacked to death. Ko Sha and Lao Sha both nodded and had no objection to this. After all, the importance of the Phantom Beast's spirit tree was self-evident, and no amount of gold could compare to it. In the Super Saiyan state, he could only hold on for about 6 minutes by throwing skills wildly, but he could only hold on for nearly 10 minutes by simply swinging his sword without throwing skills. At this moment, Cheng Cheng stood on his head with his blonde hair, fluttering in the wind, with an amazing momentum. However, Cayenne currently cannot lack manpower, so you two, Kosa and Leodu, will take turns going to sea. What about cutting the sea, turtle school qigong, water breathing, all kinds of skills are released crazily. A pirate group emerged out of nowhere, and for the first time the world got to know them. News of the killing of 2 marine lieutenants came, and the whole sea was shaken. Naturally, there was a burst of heartfelt praise from others. And Cheng Cheng, the national master, cannot stay in Cayenne forever. But this time is still too short for him. Such a short time is not enough to support the future war on top. Chapter 144 Luo somewhere in the sea during the first half of the Grand Line. This is located at the junction of the calm zone. The sky was clear and the seawater was swaying in waves under the gentle breeze. From time to time, thick sword energy would shoot out from the bottom of the sea, causing waves of more than 10 meters to rise from the water. However, the momentum of the thick sword energy remained unabated, shooting straight into the sky. The momentum is astonishing, as if it won't stop until the sky is broken. Fortunately, this is the edge of the intersection with the windless zone, and few ships will come here. Otherwise, if the thick sword energy hits the ship, no matter how big the ship is, it will be split into two. Cheng Cheng, who transformed into a Super Saiyan, has been practicing sword practice in the deep sea for several days. He wants to exercise his body through the pressure of seawater. Facts have proved that this is still somewhat effective, and now you can clearly feel that the time to transform into a Super Saiyan has been extended underwater. In addition, Cheng Cheng would go to a nearby Poseidon to practice sword practice every day. I have to say that it was indeed much more enjoyable than practicing sword practice on Kosa. After all, when sparring with Kosha, it's still impossible to really use your full strength. In the cold sea water, bubbles continued to rise. This process had lasted for 6 minutes. After waving the sword crazily to release the sword energy, his physical strength was also declining rapidly. Sunlight rarely reaches here in the depths of the sea. Cheng Cheng's eyes were only pitch black, but after perceiving through seeing, hearing, color and domineering, all the surrounding creatures were clearly visible in his mind. It was silent here, except for the occasional low roar from a few Poseidon species asserting their sovereignty. Everything was silent. Not to mention those dumb little fish and shrimps, even ordinary Poseidons try to avoid Cheng Cheng. Whoosh! An extremely subtle sound suddenly came from the water, like a flying arrow piercing the air. However, no matter how powerful the arrow was in the seawater, after traveling for several hundred meters, its speed would slow down due to the resistance of the seawater. However, this voice was not slow at all. Instead, it became sharper. Cheng Cheng sneered and said to himself, "What, did you realize that I am not physically strong anymore, so you took this opportunity to sneak attack me? Very smart." Advertisement. But no matter how smart you think you are still going to die. There was no word to reply to Cheng Cheng's taunt. What responded to him was only 2 tentacles as thick as a century-old tree that shot out from a distance. Have you forgotten about your brothers? Akainu, who stood proudly on the bow of the marine battleship, his arms filled with magma, looked at the crumbling submarine indifferently and said loudly. Cheng Cheng moved faster, moving 2 meters to the left, and 2 shocking tentacles crossed his right cheek. After seeing it, Cheng Cheng shook his head in disgust and said to himself, "I won't take you back, it's too dirty, it looks like you have no appetite. Do you know how to run away now?" The Poseidon with glowing red eyes quickly turned around and fled from here. He put his hands together, and a ball of blue-white energy light quickly condensed in his hands. Cheng Cheng sneered and shouted, "Kamehameha." The blood-red Poseidon in front didn't give up. It opened its bloody mouth and swallowed countless seawater, stones, and seaweeds into its body. Its huge body also expanded rapidly like a balloon. Although for pirates, increasing the bounty is an affirmation of the strength of their heart pirate group, only he knows that their pirate group has clearly done nothing recently. Suddenly, its head and body tilted forward, its eyes became even redder, its mouth opened, and a violent jet of black water spewed out, like a volcano erupting. Trafalgaro, do you think you can still run away? Give up your fearless struggle, unless you can teleport and disappear without a trace this time like last time. After the black water flow encountered the turtle school qigong, it was directly scattered without any resistance, and was scattered in the depths of the sea without posing any threat to Cheng Cheng. It was a humiliation for him to raise the bounty so inexplicably. The tentacles covered with dense suckers broke through the water flow, seemingly ignoring the resistance of the water in the deep sea, and shot towards Cheng Cheng like lightning. At this moment, the sea above the sea has become a sea of magma, red in color. The seawater is rolling and bubbling, emitting thick white water vapor. A majestic golden sword energy suddenly slashed out, and the Poseidon with red eyes was directly split into two. The huge corpse exploded, and a ball of pitch black liquid as black as ink erupted. Advertisement: the air in the submarine was sultry and hot at the moment, and the outer iron sheets were burned red by the magma and seawater. Although I know Ace and know that he is a very strong person, we have never met each other. How can we save him? You are a marine and I am a pirate. I can catch you if you want. Why bother looking for these boring things? Excuse. He said coldly. Whether you did it or not, I will know after I catch you. Over the sea, two golden sword energies crossed and flashed past. Trafalgaro felt angry. A week ago, he heard that Akainu would come to hunt him down again, and his own worth had inexplicably increased to 1 billion belly. A huge beam of energy burst out suddenly with the push of Cheng Cheng's hands, illuminating the entire dark deep sea. In the blink of an eye, he came to the top of this Poseidon, and without hesitation, he slashed out with his sword from bottom to top, silently chanting. Breath of true water, cut the sea. A huge marine battleship is chasing a dilapidated yellow submarine. The black pirate flag on the submarine is in tatters. Seeing that time was running out to transform into a Super Saiyan, Cheng Cheng stepped on the water and swam towards the sea. Akainu looked serious, and waved his arms full of magma forward, and a circle of hot magma surrounded the submarine. The two tentacles, which could kill any ordinary person, broke into two halves, and the rear ends began to shrink back rapidly. He raised the Zhenhai sword without hesitation, and the golden sword energy surged from the sword, slashing towards the tentacles. I have explained to you many times, this is our first meeting, I am not a blonde man, and I have never helped anyone intercept you and impel down. Only Trafalgaro was left alone inside. The other members were avoiding Akainu and were teleported away by him using the surgical fruit. He didn't know where those friends were now, or even whether they survived. Not sure. Trafalgaro, weak and sweaty, leaned back in his seat and angrily responded to Akainu through the submarine's loudspeaker. Cheng Cheng's figure was like lightning, and he chased after the Poseidon. His speed in the water was no slower than that of the Poseidon. Cheng Cheng raised the corners of his mouth and put away the Zhenhai sword without any panic. But as his body continued to get closer to the sea surface, he felt more and more that the temperature of the water surface became hotter, as hot as boiling water. Chapter 145 Super Accelerator. The hot magma mixed with black liquid formed a barrier directly in front of the submarine, completely blocking Trafalgar Law's escape path. The submarine was already very dilapidated. The iron walls around it finally could not withstand the intense heat. The molten iron melted and holes appeared one after another. Sea water poured into the submarine from all directions, and the temperature inside the hull also rose sharply. Trafalgaro sighed helplessly. There was no way he could stay here any longer. Even if he is caught by Akainu, he may not necessarily die, but if he continues to stay here, he will soon die on the bottom of the sea somewhere. He gritted his teeth, opened the door of the cabin above his head, and stood above the submarine in a flash. Looking up, there is a sea of magma and fire all around. His eyes were fixed on Akainu, who stood proudly on the bow of the ship, and his right hand quietly held the black demon sword Gaiwei. There was a row of white cross patterns engraved on the scabbard, and the entire blade exuded a cold breath of death. He was confident that, with the results of his surgery, even if he could not defeat Akainu, he could still injure him. In this way, he could avenge his friends. Room cutting. Farah Falgaro shouted softly, stretched out his left hand, and spread his fingers. A hemispherical transparent invisible space quickly expanded in his palm, causing a slight whirlpool. The transparent space soon expanded to include the marine battleship where Akainu was, shrouded in it. In an instant, Trafalgaro's figure disappeared from the spot and suddenly appeared behind Akainu. The demon sword ghost cry drew a black sword light in the air and slashed towards Akainu. Trafalgar Law felt happy, there was hope. But when the demon sword ghost cry passed by, Akainu in front had disappeared. It turned out that Akainu's body was just an afterimage. A voice as cold as 10,000 years of cold iron rang in his ears. You are too weak, you should not be that person. Then a huge ball of magma appeared in front of him, its momentum was like that of Mount Tai. Akainu's cold voice continued, but since you are also a pirate, you deserve to die, I won't wrongly accuse you. Trafalgaro closed his eyes and felt the hot breath of death. This was the closest he had ever been to Shinigami. Advertisement boom. A violent explosion sounded, deafening. At the critical moment, Cheng Cheng stood in front of Trafalgaro with his sword. The unparalleled thick magma was cut open, flowed out to the sides of the two of them, and hit the cabin behind, igniting raging flames. Immediately afterwards, Trafalgaro felt his body lighten, and his whole body was thrown far away with force, flying upside down to the distance of the sea, and landed just on a golden cloud. He felt the soft golden clouds under his feet and was surprised that he would not fall. In the blink of an eye, Cheng Cheng, who was already 100 meters away, had landed on the somersault cloud. He put his hands together on his waist, mobilized all the remaining strength in his body, and said to Trafalgaro without any doubt, sit tight, brother. Akainu stared coldly at the crowd on the sea below, his brows furrowed and his face expressionless. He chased Akainu forward with all his strength, and also punched out with the hot magma. At this moment, Shikai, who was standing proudly in the air, reacted and punched the seawater below with an angry punch, causing the seawater to explode hundreds of meters high. Cheng Cheng chuckled softly and said, "Red Dog, lousy won't play with you today. Let's fight another day. So all that can be done now is to escape quickly. Thank you so much for saving my life. I am Trafalgar Law, the captain of the Hard Pirates. If you need any help in the future, just ask me and I will answer my questions." Akainu threw out a punch and collided with the huge golden sword energy. He took a few steps back and then pursued forward even faster. The air shook violently and the sea below was churning. As soon as he finished speaking, Akainu transformed into a stream of hot lava and rushed towards Cheng Cheng. Now his Super Saiyan state has reached a point where he is exhausted. Once this state is lifted, he really does not have the confidence to fight Akainu. The original position of the marine battleship was now a sea of fire. The battleship was split in two from the middle. Countless corpses wearing white marine uniforms were floating on the sea. The marines who survived by chance were roaring and screaming in pain. Cheng Cheng stepped on Moonwalk, flew into the air, and drew his sword instead of cutting Akainu. Instead, a huge sword light was shot directly towards the marine battleship, tearing the air. Wearing a Prajna ghost mask, Cheng Cheng has blonde hair and an imposing aura. The light golden air around him wraps up his entire body. Then another golden sword energy slashed out, trying to stop Akainu. Advertisement looking at the savior in front of him whose hair turned from blonde to white, and whose face looked particularly young, Trafalgaro solemnly said. Trafalgaro hesitated. Instead of lying down like Cheng Cheng, he just changed to a relatively comfortable sitting position. After feeling that Akainu had given up chasing them, Cheng Cheng breathed a sigh of relief and lay down exhausted. Akainu said coldly, "You are indeed in the same group. Let me see how you escape this time." Boom! A huge shockwave spread in the air, then he turned his attention to the marine battleship. After hearing about the Black Justice pirates, Trafalgaro stood up suddenly, his eyes widened and he looked shocked. Cheng Cheng cursed angrily, "What a beast! These people can die gloriously, that is for their glory. Compared with the lives of hundreds of marines on the battleship, the person wearing the ghost mask in front of them is obviously more important." Akainu Kasaki looked cold, as if he had discovered Cheng Cheng's true intention, sneered and hesitated and continued to pursue Cheng Cheng. On the other side, Cheng Cheng, who was on the somersault cloud, had taken off his ghost mask, revealing his handsome face, with short silver white hair fluttering in the wind, and light golden eyes that were captivating. Cheng Cheng and the others rode the somersault cloud and used the power of reverse thrust to accelerate suddenly, drawing a golden line in the air and disappearing from the horizon in the blink of an eye. Cheng Cheng shouted loudly and pushed his hands forward suddenly. The wave of turtle-style qigong was not a straight beam of light, but formed a large trumpet shape and exploded violently to the rear. One of the marines even had one of his ears cut off by the sword energy. He covered his bloody ear with his right hand and looked around in panic for help. Trafalgaro's pupils shrank, and he watched the ball of energy condensed between the hands of the man in front of him getting bigger and bigger, which seemed to contain the power to destroy the world. He just nodded and quietly lowered his body. Kame Ka, Cheng Cheng smiled and said to him, "Don't be so nervous, lie down and chat, we are safe now." Ghost-faced man, Trafalgar Law. No matter who you are, I, Kasaki, will never let you go. Even if the battleship is destroyed and all those marines are dead, what will happen? Cheng Cheng also introduced himself. I am Alabasta's national advisor and captain of the Black Justice Pirates, Cheng Cheng. Chapter 146 Bond. Who hasn't heard of the Black Justice Pirates, which became famous a week ago? As soon as this new pirate group was established, it shocked the entire sea. After killing two marine lieutenants, one of them, a mysterious man in a yellow robe whose face could not be seen clearly, was directly offered a reward of 500 million belly. What's even more exaggerated is that currently, the captain of this pirate group still doesn't know who he is, what his name is, or even whether there is a captain. Trafalgaro murmured to himself. Compared to you, those of us called supernova pirates are simply a joke. Cheng Cheng lay on the soft somersault cloud and said with a smile, "Among you supernovas, you also have Kid, Luffy, and Zoro. You are all very capable, but you just lack some time to practice. In the future, everyone has the right to face General Marine alone." Luo, who was covered in injuries, has obviously improved a lot after this period of recovery. The wounds have stopped bleeding, but his breath is still a little disordered. He smiled quietly and did not refute Cheng Cheng's words. Sure enough, you supernovas are extremely confident deep down. Also, without the confidence and ambition to fight General Marine, how can we replace the rule of overthrowing the four emperors in the future? Just like his younger brother Luffy, that silly boy told everyone in the world that he wanted to become One Piece on the first day he went to sea. The great secret treasure of the sea is his. What is confidence? This is it. When many people heard Luffy say this overestimating statement, they were shocked and laughed. No one took it seriously, but who among them knew? When Luffy said those words, he was willing to die for this dream, and he was always ready for it. Because of this awareness, he was able to become stronger again and again. After putting life and death aside, he became extremely powerful, and at the same time, he deeply attracted people who had the same dreams as him. Cheng Cheng sat up and looked at Trafalgar Law with a smile. His surgical fruit was definitely a great help in rescuing Ace during the war on the top. If he could have a way for Luo to awaken the surgical fruit in advance, then saving Ace is really foolproof. Advertisement. He straightened his back and said with a smile, "Since we are so optimistic about the Black Justice Pirates, there are only 2 captains on my ship at the moment, so why don't you come and join us?" The words fell. Trafalgaro hesitated for a moment, then took off the furry winter fur hat with leopard moderate spots on his head, and gently rubbed his beard on his chin with his fingers, his expression solemn. Cheng Cheng was not in a hurry, but he felt extremely tired just after sitting up for a while. Although he did not accurately calculate the time just now, it definitely exceeded the time of any previous transformation into a Super Saiyan, and he still persisted in a fierce battle. At least 8 minutes. His body was already very overdrawn. Only then did he remember. He threw a fairy bean into his mouth and chewed it like peanuts, making a crisp sound. After a long time, after eating the celestial beans, when his physical strength was almost restored, Trafalgar sat cross-legged, with his back straight and said solemnly, "Master Cheng Cheng, you saved my life and are my biggest benefactor. Logically speaking, I have no right to refuse. Although I am the captain of the Heart Pirates, I cannot disband and join your Black Justice Pirates without consulting my other partners. I personally don't have any opinion on this matter, I just need to ask my partners, or at least give them an explanation." Cheng Cheng nodded, with a smile on his face. Of course, that's the truth. Trafalgar Law's expression then darkened. A week ago, first learned that Marine General Akainu was going to hunt me down personally. After learning the news, I immediately felt something was wrong and began to lead my companions. They shift positions. However, within a few days of escaping, Akainu somehow found my hiding place and started to launch a crazy attack on us. On the way to escape, I used the surgical fruits to transfer Pibo, Shachi, and Janbalu to the outside of the submarine one by one. I don't know what their current situation is, whether they were caught by Marine, whether they are alive or dead. Cheng Cheng smiled and said, "Don't worry, as long as you, the captain, don't die, you will meet them again sooner or later. I also have enough time to wait. You can go back with me first. When there is news about them, it will not be too late for you to leave. Advertisement by the way, the identity of the captain still needs to be kept secret. My other current identity is Alabasta's national advisor." Trafalgaro nodded solemnly. After returning to Cayenne, Cheng Cheng arranged a large luxurious room on the 5th floor for Luo Anshin to stay, and also introduced Kosha and Luo to each other. He didn't let Luo go to the rooftop, but just told him that he could play in the casino and relax. Luo, who felt the unusual mysterious energy fluctuations on the rooftop, saw that Cheng Cheng had no intention of letting him go onto the balcony, so he wisely avoided it and either recovered from his injuries in his room or walked around the casino to see what those individuals were. Dazzling gambling games are of little interest. There were several times during which Cheng Cheng came to Luo with a bottle of wine to chat and spank. Naturally, the two chatted about everything from north to south, and gradually got to know each other better. However, Luo was injured and did not let go every time he drank. Drink boldly. Luo also knew what Cheng Cheng had done for the country, especially after learning about Cheng Cheng's so-called tree planting activities, and he laughed and scolded him. Cheng Cheng is too kind-hearted. He is really stupid and has too much money. But in his heart, he sincerely admired Cheng Cheng. 2 days later, Luo felt that his physical injuries had recovered to some extent, so he found Cheng Cheng and said that he had something to tell him. In front of the door on the 1st floor of Cayenne, none of the high-profile customers who came here to spend money in the morning came to the door yet. Only the people queuing up to collect saplings in front of the door formed a long queue. Everyone greeted Cheng Cheng with a smile, and Cheng Cheng would nod when he met someone familiar. He and Luo were walking on the garden path in the rain. The unknown wild flowers on the roadside were colorful and exuding light floral scent. The roads are clean and spotless, not like a city built in the desert. Cheng Cheng saw that Luo had almost recovered and was still hesitant to speak today, so he guessed what he was thinking and asked first, "Are you ready to leave?" Luo nodded and said softly, "Thanks to the care of the master, my body has almost recovered now. There is still no news about my friends. It is time for me to set off to find them." Cheng Cheng asked with a smile. "The world is so big, how do you go about searching? Looking for people aimlessly is a waste of time, but I have a simpler and less labor-intensive method. Otherwise, are you making a decision after listening?" Chapter 147 Polar Bear Tears. Looking for people in an aimless sea is like looking for a needle in a haystack, and Luo himself is not sure whether those partners are alive or dead, or whether they have been caught by Marine. Once captured, they will never be found. Is it possible to go to Impel City to save people? This is not rescuing people, this is surrendering. Even so, Luo, whose injuries were almost healed, still insisted on leaving, and he was ready to find his way back along the way he escaped. If you are lucky, it is still possible to find it. Hearing that Cheng Cheng had a better way, Luo looked at Cheng Cheng with doubtful eyes. He didn't quite believe that there was any good way in this situation. Cheng Cheng smiled quietly. "It's very simple. Just write a code word that only your partners can understand in newspapers sent to all over the world. This way, Marine will not find out and you can contact them as quickly as possible, and you just need to wait here. It will be much easier than looking for it like a headless fly." Luo thought for a while and hesitated. There is such a code, but to publish information on posters sent around the world, you need to have connections with government departments, and it should also require a lot of money. I have nothing now. Cheng Cheng laughed loudly, patted Luo on the shoulder and said, "Don't worry, brother Luo, as Alabasta's national master, I still have some skills, and as my brother, you never have to think about money. Do you know that every day, how much money was given to those people?" Luo looked at Cheng Cheng with confusion. He only knew that there was a tree planting activity that rewarded 10,000 belly for each tree, but he really didn't know how much reward money could be given out in a day. Cheng Cheng raised 3 fingers and said softly, "On average, I will give out 3 million belly every day. So far, the total money given out has been almost 1 billion belly." Trafalgaro froze on the spot, his eyes widened, and he took a deep breath. I really can't figure out why Cheng Cheng did this. With so much money, you are just a pirate, looking for some stupid treasure. If you go to the sea, you yourself are the biggest treasure in the sea. Don't you realize that? This point? However, Luo soon realized that no matter how much money Cheng Cheng had, if he threw it away so desperately, it would eventually be used up one day. Trafalgaro also knew that this was the best way so far. He could only force himself to wait here with peace of mind. However, due to Cheng Cheng's continuous attacks with millions of dollars in wealth, the next day, a picture that no one could understand was published on the front page of newspapers around the world. Advertisement, Captain, woo woo woo. Everyone else was captured by Marine, woo woo woo, and they are in the great prison under the sea. The Black Justice Pirates will surely become the 5th Emperor of the Sea within 2 years. If they cannot defeat their captain, there is nothing to be ashamed of. A white cross is inserted upside down on a red heart. The blood flowing from the heart dyes the white cross red. Then Cheng Cheng quickly discovered the pattern on the polar bear, which was an exaggerated smile, which was the unique symbol of the Heart Pirates. Except for a row of small words below that introduce Cayenne as the largest casino in Alabasta, there is no extra information. At this time, Cheng Cheng suddenly remembered, isn't this the second in command of the Heart Pirates, Navigator Peebo? Cheng Cheng looked at Luo's weird eyes and explained with a smile, don't get me wrong, I'm not sick. I only give them money to get what I want. The polar bear is not very big, only about the same height as Kosha. The claws on the bear's paws are extremely sharp, like sharp knives made of steel. However, its eyes are very small bean eyes, which look very cute. Luo also patted Cheng Cheng's shoulder solemnly and said, I understand, you are a good person. Luo, who felt desperate, could only sigh to comfort himself in the end. So Cheng Cheng jumped up and landed in front of the polar bear. There are new wars happening on the sea every day, and many new heroes are born. This small illustration was quickly forgotten by everyone in a few days. But even as a captain of the Black Justice Pirates, Luo found that he could not do anything to Kosa. Instead, he had to try his best to avoid his powerful, heavy and domineering fists every time. The polar bear in an orange jumpsuit has been wandering in front of the Cayenne for a long time, refusing to push the door in. Most of the people who came to the Cayenne at this time in the morning were not gambling guests. Seeing as he didn't line up to receive the saplings, he probably wasn't either. Poor people who were short of money. After enduring half a month of torture, Luo finally got good news. After receiving the blow, Luo began to train harder, and at the same time he became more and more anxious. Advertisement. The polar bear lowered his head, walked around below, looked up at the Cayenne sign, and sighed one after another. Originally, the layout plan and content of world government newspapers were scheduled at least 1 week in advance. Unless something big happened that shocked the world, information would be published urgently on the front page. After he knew the gap between himself and Cheng Cheng, Luo did not continue to challenge Cheng Cheng. Instead, he turned his attention to Kusha. At the same time, he also knew that Kusha was the captain of the Black Justice Pirates. This morning, Cheng Cheng, who had just harvested 2 Phantom Beast devil fruits, saw a snow-white polar bear standing in front of Cayenne's door. Cheng Cheng was puzzled and looked over more carefully. Many critics interpreted it as meaning that coming to our casino will make your heart beat faster and win. In the end, they all thought it was a lame advertising image, and no one continued to pay attention to it. Later, if Cheng Cheng had not stopped him in time, one of them would have died and the other would have been injured. Either Lao Sha would be dismembered by Luo, or Luo would be buried alive by Lao Sha with yellow sand. When Cheng Cheng led the polar bear to see Luo, Peebo rushed up and gave Luo a bear hug, crying and choking with snot and tears. When he learned that Kosa had eaten the Phantom Beast devil fruit less than 2 months ago, he collapsed even more. In the meantime, Lao Sha came back once and brought back a large amount of gold and jewelry. According to the previous agreement, it was Kosha's turn to go to sea. Lao Sha was responsible for guarding the Fantasy Beast spirit tree on the balcony of Cayenne. And even if he slashed Kusha's purple skin with his sword, it didn't seem to cause much damage. Unless he used the room space, it would be difficult for him to take advantage of Kusha. Cheng Cheng's face froze and he cursed back. You are the good person, and your whole family is a good person. At first, many people thought it was this Alabasta casino that spent a lot of money on advertising, but the more they looked at it, the more it looked different. There were crosses and red hearts, and it didn't look very auspicious. This time the battle between the two was even more intense. Outside the rainy desert, yellow sand was flying all over the sky, the earth was shaking, countless deep pits appeared on the ground, and the entire sky was darkened by the two men. In addition to practicing on his own, he also consulted and sparred with Cheng Cheng once a day. Every time, without any surprise, he was hit on the head by Cheng Cheng with the Zhenhai sword, and then the battle ended with a disparity in strength. Peebo, the second in command of the Heart Pirates, with a bounty of only 500 belly, was frightened by the sudden appearance of Cheng Cheng and fell to the ground. Still unwilling to give in, Luo once again challenged the captain of the 2nd Division. Chapter 148. Captain of the 3rd Division. Luo Ting's body suddenly trembled and became stiff, his eyes fierce. Once captured by Marine into Impel Down City, it is basically equivalent to a death sentence. This prison located under the sea is known as the strongest prison in the world. There are countless jailers and videophone bugs inside, and there are also a large number of large Poseidon species gathered around the underwater prison. In the past few decades, only the golden lion Shiki has escaped from here. With his current strength, going to make a big fuss in Impel Down City and then rescuing people would be nothing more than a dream. It would be easy to get in, but it would be basically impossible to get out. It is tantamount to committing suicide and has no meaning. Luo's figure staggered backwards and fell to the ground, his expression gloomy. He also wanted to stay calm as much as possible now, but no matter how hard he tried to control it, the sadness, pain and huge feeling of powerlessness came to his face like a tide. Peebo just kept crying. Captain, what should we do? Now there are only 2 of us left in the Heart Pirates, woo woo woo. Luo, whose eyes slowly regained their determination, suddenly stood up and said resolutely, Peebo, just wait here, I will definitely find a way to rescue Changbalu and the others. Since coming to Cayenne, Luo has noticed the secret of the top balcony. Whether it is Koshia or Lao Sha, they seem to be on the balcony most of the time in Cayenne. A nearly 2-meter tall golden tree was suspended in the air with golden light emitting from its entire body. Countless roots, large and small, were rooted in the void. Golden energy could also be faintly seen flowing slowly inside the trunk. Peebo held Luo's arms tightly and cried with tears in his eyes, No, Captain, you can't go. It's very dangerous there. If you go, you will die. Dots of golden light the size of rice grains floated down from the leaves and branches in the breeze. It was so beautiful that it was like entering a dream, as if it was something that should not exist in this world. He couldn't imagine what kind of surprises a pirate group whose members were all Phantom Beast demon fruit users would bring to the sea. Advertisement Cheng Cheng was in a good mood and said with a smile, Since you are one of your own now, let's go. I will take you to the balcony to see some good things. Cheng Cheng chuckled and introduced, This is the Phantom Beast Spirit Tree, and it is also the biggest support of our Black Justice pirates. After the polar bear Peebo saw the captain kneeling, he also hurriedly knelt down, touched his forehead to the ground, and kept kowtowing. After listening to this, Luo said directly without any hesitation, There is nothing to hesitate about. If this is true, it is equivalent to saving 3 more lives. No fool will not sign. As if he was taking turns to protect an important thing, Cheng Cheng had no intention of letting Luo go onto the balcony. As an outsider, Luo was naturally very sensible and would not ask for it. In nearly a month, 8 Phantom Beast devil fruits have been harvested. They will only wait until Kusha and the others come back to hand over to Lao Sha again, and then let others eat them. However, although Impel Down City is dangerous, it depends on who you are. For you, it is a place of death, but for me, it may not be. Later, after being introduced by Cheng Cheng, he learned that the devil fruit of Phantom Beast species could be cultivated on it, which completely overturned Luo's 3 views and completely understood that he had underestimated the Black Justice pirates before. He also clearly told Luo the pros and cons of signing the contract. During these days, Cheng Cheng, in addition to practicing in the depths of the sea, was also irrigating the Fantasy Beast Spirit Tree. Luo chuckled and said, If he doesn't speak, it means he has already agreed. Peebo lowered his head nervously, carefully tapped the watermelon like devil fruit in it, and said softly, Can I have this? Luo shook his head gently, No need, you saved my life in the first place. I still understand the principle of repaying the kindness of a drop of water with a spring. Since Peebo is here now, I can do this now, promise. I don't need you to fight to the death for me, but you can discuss the idea I mentioned earlier with Peebo again. As long as you are willing to join my Black Justice Pirates and be the captain of my 3rd division, then your partners in the Heart Pirates are naturally my partners. After Luo and Peebo looked at each other, they immediately said, I promise you, join the Heart Pirates now. I believe that in this world, apart from the 4 emperors, you are the only one who can join the Black Justice Pirates. Pushed into the city to rescue them. Advertisement He knelt down in front of Cheng Cheng without hesitation and said resolutely, As the head of Cheng Cheng, just ask for anything. As long as I can save my partner, I will die without giving up. Polar bear Peebo's face turned red and he lowered his head shyly, not daring to speak to Cheng Cheng. That afternoon, Trafalgar Law and Polar bear Peebo signed a contract with Cheng Cheng. If Luo himself doesn't want to eat, he doesn't have to sign the contract. Luo had also joined Black Justice. Cheng Cheng explained to Luo the signing of the contract. If Peebo wanted to eat, he had to sign the contract. After the contract was signed, Cheng Cheng smiled and put all the 8 Phantom Beast devil fruits in the space ring on the table. He smiled at Peebo and said, You pick one first. Seeing Luo's somewhat surprised look, Cheng Cheng smiled and continued to explain, I have a younger brother who was arrested and entered Impel Down City some time ago, so I must go to Impel Down City. Cheng Cheng gave a wry smile and appeared behind them in a flash. He did not accept the gift from the 2 of them. After sitting leisurely on the chair, he said calmly. Cheng Cheng on the side said calmly, Peebo is right. With your current strength, what's the difference between going anywhere and dying? I worked hard to save you, and I didn't let you die easily. When Luo and Peebo stepped onto the balcony, they were stunned by the scene in front of them. Saving them is nothing more than doing it conveniently when they go to make a big fuss in Impel Down City in the future. Cheng Cheng, who was sitting on the chair, smiled quietly and said, In that case, you can temporarily become the acting captain of the 3rd team. When the day I fulfill my promise, it won't be too late for you to officially join us. After Cheng Cheng stood up, he laughed loudly and said, Okay, from now on, you are the captain of the 3rd division of my Black Justice Pirates, and your partners also belong to the 3rd division. In addition, our Black Justice Pirates currently only have an unprofessional navigator, Shuya, so let Peebo serve as the navigator's deputy. After seeing Cheng Cheng, Luo, who looked frustrated, suddenly remembered Cheng Cheng's terrifying ability to fight Marine General Akainu, as well as the powerful crew of the Black Justice Pirates. His eyes instantly brightened, as if he saw a life-saving straw. Chapter 149 Black Spear. Cheng Cheng looked at this cute and shy polar bear and thought that Tuanzi would like him very much. Those two cute bean eyes would make even a person like Cheng Cheng, who thinks he has a heart of stone, feel a little bit uncomfortable. Cute, he chuckled. Of course, you can choose any of these devil fruits. Polar bear Peebo rubbed his hands carefully, and then looked at Luo with a pleading look. After seeing Luo nodded slightly, he slowly held the watermelon-like devil fruit in his paws, sat on a chair and began to chew slowly. Pharynx. Cheng Cheng smiled helplessly, and when he looked at Peebo, he quickly thought of the snow demon bear after Kabasi's transformation, which looked much more ferocious than Peebo. Peebo walked to the edge of the chair, sat down, and ate quietly with a reserved expression. When he saw Cheng Cheng and Luo looking at him, he couldn't help but realize that he seemed to be eating too slowly, but they couldn't let the two of them wait too long, so they quietly speeded up. Even so, it took Peebo nearly 5 minutes to finish all of the Phantom Beast devil fruit. The speed is so slow that it is second only to Sabo, the second in command of the Revolutionary Army, who eats devil fruit with a knife and fork. Cheng Cheng stepped forward and asked softly, "How do you feel? Generally, after eating this Phantom Beast devil fruit, you can transform. After the transformation, your appearance will also change and become another form. Usually it will also come with other special abilities." Peebo smiled shyly, scratched his head and whispered softly, "No, I didn't feel anything. It's just that my body is a little cold, and it doesn't taste very good." Cheng Cheng, who has seen so many people transform, already has quite a lot of experience. He smiled and said, "Feel it for yourself and see if there is any special power and energy, or mysterious fluctuations in your body." Luo also encouraged him from the side, "Peebo, you can do it." The polar bear Peebo nodded heavily, then stood there, holding his breath, using both hands to reveal the sharp bare paws. After a while, his whole face turned red from holding back his breath. The polar bear Peebo, who had doubled in size, looked even cuter. He smiled, his beady eyes turned into two crescents, and he was very satisfied with his transformation. Cheng Cheng sighed, "It seems that this is the ability of your Phantom Beast devil fruit." Then Peebo, who really had no strength, squatted down on the ground. Suddenly, he had a flash of inspiration and lay on the ground with both hands and feet supporting the ground at the same time. He really turned into a polar bear and looked at Cheng in embarrassment. Cheng and the other two asked in a low voice, "Advertisement." The heavily armored warrior Kang Gang didn't talk nonsense. His two thick arms were emitting black light. He reached his hands behind his back and pulled out two spear-like barbs behind him, holding them tightly in his hands. Trafalgaro covered his forehead and closed his eyes, feeling really shameless. Lao Sha, on the other hand, is completely domineering. He will go wherever there is more treasure. Whether there is danger or not is not a concern for him at all. Whenever he encounters other pirate groups, all members will go out to kill them without hesitation. Cheng Cheng looked at Lao Sha with questioning eyes and asked, "Where did you find Kang Gang? I saw him before who didn't care about anything. He only slept and ate all day long, and didn't say hello to other people. How did you discover such a talent?" After lying on the ground and walking on all fours for a while, the polar bear Peebo seemed to feel that walking like this was not as comfortable as standing up and walking on both feet. He smiled honestly and then stood up again. In addition, there was a thin young man in the second division who caught Cheng Cheng's attention. The Phantom Beast he transformed into became a heavy armored cavalryman of normal height with a strange name, Kang, Steel. The first team got 3 and the second team got 4. Wearing a heavy black armor, Kang Gang's arms were as hard and thick as 2 giant hammers, and his back was covered with steel barbs. It looked like someone had inserted countless iron spears into his back. Afterwards, Cheng Cheng distributed devil fruits to others according to his own rules. Walking up to Kang Gang, looking at him who was still familiar with his physical condition after the transformation, he asked softly, "How do you feel?" The iron-patterned lion Basilius, the red-flamed tiger Sander, and the black-winged demonic wolf Lovell of the first team. "What a confident boy." Cheng Cheng chuckled and said, "Come on, feel free to attack me and try it." The others were all shocked. It was not that the Imperial Preceptor was deliberately causing trouble for Kang Gang, but they all looked at the Iron Warrior with envy. There were so many of them here, but the Imperial Preceptor only challenged him. "Am I successful in my transformation?" Almost all of them successfully transformed as soon as they ate it, with great success. In this ocean, only the strong can make the rules. Advertisement. Moreover, the two of them have completely different styles of doing things when they go to sea. Kusha is more stable and will be very cautious when approaching dangerous sea areas. Sometimes he will even give up directly. When encountering the occasional provocative pirates on the road, he will try his best not to do so. Go kill them all. The next morning, after first taking a few steps back to put some distance between him and Cheng Cheng, Kang Gang suddenly rushed forward. 2 steel spears in his hands suddenly shot out, like 2 black lightnings, tearing the air and rolling up 2 desert hurricanes towards him. Cheng Cheng shot away. But this kid still looked lazy and not afraid at all. Seeing that he was a man of some integrity, I just brought him back. But when he stood up again, Peebo, who was still the height of a normal person, had doubled in size. Cheng Cheng walked over curiously, his head only reaching Peebo's waist. Godzilla Toli of the second division shouted, "Kongdong, try your best, don't embarrass my second division." Cheng Cheng immediately couldn't laugh or cry. It should be okay, but the change is not very big. In the early morning, Kosha took Shuya and the others to transport the treasure back to Cayenne, and then handed it over to Lao Sha. This time it was Lao Sha's turn to go to sea again, as usual, except this time there was an extra trafal. Garo and Peppa the polar bear. Lao Sha chuckled and said, he is probably the easiest person for me to find. When I met him, this guy asked me if I was a strong person and what was my temper. If I could do it without taking action, I would never complain and just throw him out. A ball of yellow sand buried the boy underground, leaving only his head exposed. Cheng Cheng never said anything about this. The sea has its laws. If you go out to mess around, since you become a pirate, you must be prepared to be killed or killed. They are all powerful phantom beast devil fruits, but there has never been a powerful phantom beast comparable to Godzilla and King Kong. The second team's three-headed demon leopard Conrad, the blue-winged unicorn Lewis, and a giant behemoth that is as tall as Godzilla, with two hard horns growing on its head, are majestic, which immediately aroused King Kong Huluwa's desire to fight. This in itself is the greatest appreciation for that iron warrior. Kang Gang, whose whole body was surrounded by black metal, slowly raised his head. He even wore a thick iron armor on his head, and red light emitted from his two eyes. He said in a lazy voice, I feel pretty good. Now my whole body has very powerful strength. Although he seemed not as powerful as other phantom beast species, Cheng Cheng vaguely felt that there was a faint aura of death about him. Cheng Cheng nodded and seemed to have some understanding. He was not interested in Kang Gang's past, but was a little curious about the aura of death on his body. Chapter 150 Rising to Fame. Well done. Cheng Cheng's eyes were full of admiration. The power of this boy's attack was not weak. He took a step forward and whispered softly, armed and domineering. The two arms instantly turned pitch black, and then he stepped forward, holding both hands forward at the same time. The two black lightnings were firmly held in Cheng Cheng's palms. The black spear was still full of power in his hand, like two struggling black snakes trying to continue rushing forward. Cheng Cheng once again increased the strength in his hands. Then Cheng Cheng felt something strange. The black spear began to emit black smoke with the aura of death. His hands, which were already covered with armed domineering force, were slowly disarmed by the black smoke. And at the position of the disarmed domineering finger, the skin is slowly withering. Although all this happens extremely slowly, it is actually happening. What kind of power is this? While Cheng Cheng was shocked, he suddenly put more force in his hand, and the two black spears turned into powder and dissipated in the air. Others on the side couldn't tell what was going on, but they could feel the ferocious aura. They all cast envious glances at Kang Gang, saying that this kid was just lucky enough to eat a weak devil fruit. Cheng Cheng did not continue fighting Kang Gang. His goal had been achieved. He just stepped forward and told Kang Gang, in the future, unless you encounter someone who is destined to die, you'd better not take action. Kang Gang seemed to be aware of his unusual power. He nodded to Cheng Cheng and said, I understand. Lao Sha, Luo and the others did not stay in Cayenne for long, and boarded the Black Justice again that afternoon. In order to avoid exposing Cheng Cheng's identity, they always docked the Black Justice far away in the sea, and then stood on Godzilla Tori's back and boarded the shore. This way no one else would guess Cheng Cheng's identity. As if to show their importance to Luo, Marine Headquarters issued the latest reward order that afternoon. Advertisement Trafalgar Law, the former captain of the Heart Pirates, announced that he has officially joined the Black Justice Pirates and become the captain of the 3rd Division. Other young pirates who worshipped the Black Justice Pirates as their idols became popular and dyed their hair exactly the same golden color. The merchants who sold Oni masks were all sold out for a while. Cheng Cheng, who was very confident about Lao Sha's ability to do things, smiled calmly and disappeared from the place without any warning. In the end, Marine Headquarters issued a reward order, and we finally got some information about the captain. If you are willing to become our Black Justice affiliate, accept them. If you are not willing, Then he reached out and handed Lao Sha a list, with the names of the 9 pirate groups written on it, as well as brief introductions to each of the 9 captains. After the Drake Pirates were defeated by the Black Justice Pirates, they publicly admitted that they were affiliated with the Black Justice Pirates. After seeing the Black Justice Pirates, the Hawkins Pirates surrendered and became affiliated with the Black Justice Pirates. As a result, all the businessmen were very grateful to Cheng Cheng. The captains of these 3 pirate groups are all worth over 100 million. They are called the Extremely Evil Generation. Each captain is extremely powerful. Among them, Drake is an ancient species of dragon fruit and a user with the ability of Allosaurus form. He is very powerful, incomparable, but still defeated by Black Justice. However, the news about the Black Justice Pirates has not dissipated yet. The latest news about this pirate group is coming one after another, making it dizzying. So much so that an extremely interesting scene happened later. A grand banquet was held and everyone was drunk. Looking at Lao Sha's confused eyes, Cheng Cheng said calmly, these pirate groups are our best whetstones. This time you will fight them one by one under the name of Black Justice. You 2 captains, if you can't help it, don't take action. After all, those newcomers still need to fight to temper themselves. The reward order showed a blonde man wearing a ghost mask, whose face could not be seen clearly. The reward was an astonishing 1.5 billion belly. More importantly, the reward order also had a row of small words introducing the explanation. In the next few days, Cheng Cheng casually leaned against the fence and said with a smile, from now on when you go out to sea, hunting for treasure is secondary. The most important thing is to make our Black Justice Pirates famous, let the world know about us, and even make everyone fear us. Advertisement. Knowing that Cheng Cheng obviously had something to say, everyone on the boat spontaneously became quiet and looked at their captain. All the news about the Black Justice Pirates spread throughout the sea one by one, shocking people time and time again. The two pirate ships who had a verbal dispute on the sea were about to roll up their sleeves and fight, but they discovered that the other party was also wearing the ghost mask, so they knew that they were like-minded people. This time Cheng Cheng also boarded the Black Justice with them. The next day, the news about the Black Justice pirates once again shocked the sea and caused a sensation in the world. Lao Sha smiled coldly and understood, no one is really not afraid of death. He stood in front of the bow of the ship, standing proudly, looking at the people on the ship, and he seemed to have become a force that cannot be ignored. Everyone who eats the devil fruit of the phantom beast is a rare gem with unlimited potential. As long as he passes by, if you polish it carefully, you will definitely be able to support a world on your own. All they could do was to bury their deep fear of the captain deep in their hearts. Lao Sha and Luo both looked at each other silently, seeing the shock in their hearts. There seemed to be something about Cheng Cheng that they would never know or understand. This person is suspected to be the leader of the Black Justice pirates. It's just that everyone is using various methods to find out information about this mysterious captain, but there is no progress at all. The broadcasting pirates and their captain Ultraman Apu, who had a bounty of 198 million, were directly eliminated by the Black Justice pirates. All members were killed, leaving no one alive. They were all fanatics of the blonde Captain Ghostface. Instead of continuing the fight, they immediately tied the two ships together side by side. Luo's bounty was directly as high as 500 million Baileys. At the same time, the Marine headquarters also asked the intelligence agency to use the highest level search to search for the location of the Black Justice pirates in the sea. This once again shocked all the pirates. A bounty of 1.5 billion belly was placed on a person whose identity he was not sure of. Is the Marine headquarters crazy? I don't know when. Someone has already concluded that if the unseen captain of the Black Justice pirates is also very powerful, then as long as the Black Justice pirates step into the new world, he will be the fifth king of the sea. For a time, everyone was discussing everything about this pirate group. The Black Justice pirates became known to everyone, and their popularity directly surpassed the most eye-catching Straw Hat pirates some time ago. Chapter 151, The Eve of the Alliance. In the middle of the Grand Line, there is an unnamed island. The trees are lush, the weeds are overgrown, the leaves here are colorful, and wild animals are everywhere. A huge two-headed scorpion crawled quietly in the middle of its territory. It was huge, lying there like a hill, and its territory was within a few kilometers of it. Some kittens, puppies, wild beasts and wolves in the territory dare not take even a step without its permission, otherwise they will be torn into pieces by the two-headed Scorpion King's two huge pliers, and then killed by him, serve as dinner. Fortunately, this scorpion is a lazy person who doesn't like sports, so as long as other animals don't cross the line, the two will usually get along well. On this day, the two-headed Scorpion King who was sleeping suddenly stood up, as if he was frightened, and quickly ran wildly in the woods, knocking down a large number of trees. When other beasts saw the Scorpion King, they ran away without any explanation, run away directly. For a time, this quiet island turned into a mess. Around the island, there are 5 pirate ships docked on the coast at this moment. They are all extremely far apart. As if they have made an agreement, they are docked in 5 scattered directions on the island, maintaining a safe distance from each other. Disturb. From these 5 directions, 5 waves of pirates also walked down at the same time, and they all walked towards the agreed point in the middle of the island. On the south side of the island, walking in front is Kid, the captain of the Kid Pirates. Behind him is Kira, the so-called killing warrior, with a bounty of 200 million belly. He and Kid are close friends who co-founded the pirates, are all one of the 11 supernovae. The other person behind Kid is named Hit, shirtless, with white hair shawl, expressionless and walking like a zombie who has been dead for many years. Kid was wearing a black jacket and had red hedgehog hair, which turned red in the sunlight. He walked ahead with a cold look and asked with a sneer. Kira, do you think those 4 will agree to the alliance? If they refuse, or have other bad ideas, don't stop me then. I have to get rid of all their garbage here. Kira, who wore a blue and white striped mask on his head, said calmly. Don't worry, as long as their other 4 teams of pirates are not fools and have some sense, they will not reject the alliance. Advertisement. Besides, even you Kid can't defeat all those people here. The Straw Hat pirates alone cannot be underestimated and must not be taken lightly. Kid smiled ferociously, showing a row of white teeth, and laughed wildly. I know it in my heart. After all, they are all supernovas. No matter how I usually despise them, if there is a fight, I will not be careless at all. Kira sighed and murmured to himself, I didn't expect that even Hawkins, the magic stick who likes divination, would take the initiative to join Black Justice. I really don't know what he saw in the future. Kid sneered, what a bullshit guy, after all, he is just a pirate who is afraid of death. I feel ashamed to be called a supernova alongside him. If I see him again, I will be the first to kill him. However, apart from the Black Justice pirates, the one who is most popular right now is probably the Straw Hats. I'll have to see if the Straw Hats are living up to their fame in a while. However, Luffy and his party, who were walking on the north side of the island at this moment, had just gotten off the boat. They were the first to arrive at the island, but they were the last to land on the island, because they had been arguing about who should attend the alliance meeting. After all, they could not all attend, and a few people had to be left on the ship to guard it. If a fight breaks out, start running away faster. They argued for a long time and finally decided that Frankie, Sanji, Chopper and Brook would stay on the boat, and the remaining people would all get off the boat. Luffy and Usopp's eyes were shining brightly, and they were jumping up and down with excitement along the way. Luffy grinned and said, participating in the Alliance conference sounds so cool. Maybe after participating, they will elect me to become One Piece, ha 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 ha. Usopp also laughed and said proudly, "Then I am not the best sea warrior in the world on the One Piece ship, ha ha ha." Nami lay all over Zeus, playing with the peaked cap on Zeus's head, looking at the two of them like idiots, and said helplessly, "You two, combined, are not half as smart as me. If I don't go to this meeting, you are still happy to be used as a gunman." Zeus, who looked comfortable, was full of enjoyment, and quickly flattered him. "Sister Nami is right. Sister Nami is unparalleled in wisdom and invincible in the world." Nami patted Zeus's head gently and chuckled. "You can use other words next time. You have said these two words many times." Advertisement, Zeus said solemnly. "Sister Nami is full of waves and matured early. She is the most beautiful woman in the world." Nami smiled even more happily at this time, took out the weather stick and rewarded Zeus with a thundercloud, and Zeus swallowed it in one gulp, feeling satisfied. Robin, who was walking quietly at the end, coughed softly, and Zeus suddenly realized. When two women are present at the same time, if you only praise one, you will undoubtedly offend the other. He felt that he added. Sister Robin and Sister Nami tied for first place. Robin smiled sweetly and didn't care too much. He said with a smile, "I heard that the 7 warlords of the sea from Daughter's Island, the current emperor of the Amazon Lily Kingdom, is also the captain of the Hydra Pirates. Women, whose peerless looks are rated as the most beautiful in the world, Nami and I can only be regarded as second at best." Zeus immediately retorted seriously. "Every flower in the world attracts everyone's attention. Anyway, I think Sister Nami and Sister Robin are the most beautiful. They're huge beauties." Even though Robin had an indifferent temperament, he was also amused by Zeus's sweet words. Luffy and Usopp said contemptuously at the same time, "Flattery." Zoro hung 3 swords from his waist, walked in the middle with a steady pace, and said in a deep voice, "This alliance initiated by the Kid Pirates, I don't know if their true intention is to deal with the Black Justice Pirates, but no matter what, we can't be careless." Robin nodded and analyzed. Kid is right. The people who have met the Black Justice Pirates so far are all supernovas. If we continue with this trend, sooner or later they will find us. Now choosing to form a temporary alliance with others will undoubtedly have more advantages than disadvantages. I think no matter how powerful the Black Justice Pirates are in the outside world, they will still be wary of the Supernova Alliance. However, if they don't put in the work and just pretend to be pretenders when they encounter the Black Justice Pirates and treat us as gunmen, then this alliance will have no meaning in existence. Nami smiled and said, "Don't worry, I will have a good talk with them later. If we can't reach an agreement, I will let Zeus discharge his electricity and kill them. When the time comes, I will meet the Black Justice Pirates, and I will let Zeus continue to kill them." Luffy said proudly, "When the time comes, leave the Captain Turtle of the Black Justice Pirates to me to deal with." Usopp added, "Captain to captain, it's natural and right." Chapter 152 Wong Luffy. The leaves on this island are very big, but the branches are very thin. The colors of the leaves are also mostly colorful. Looking down from the height of the island, it looks like there is a rainbow island below. Not long after, Luffy and the others reached the middle of the island. Along the way, Usopp was bored and picked a few colorful leaves and made a simple rainbow cloak to put on his body. He walked with a fluttering and majestic look. Luffy looked at Usopp with envy and kept pleading, "He's so handsome, let me try, let me try." Usopp, who really enjoyed the envious gazes of others, laughed and continued to move forward, muttering, "This is the rainbow suit that I worked so hard to make, and I can't give it to you." Luffy hugged Usopp's thigh and begged, "Please Usopp, let me try. I will be the leader of the alliance soon. With this extremely handsome rainbow suit and cape, only then can I be worthy of my status as the leader of the Pirate Alliance. Once I become the leader of the Pirate Alliance, won't I be one step closer to One Piece, please?" Usopp looked hesitant, but he thought about it carefully. If Luffy became the leader of the Pirate Alliance, wouldn't his status also improve? He then took off the rainbow cloak from his back and carefully handed it to Luffy, said, "I will lend it to you temporarily. You will have to return it to me after you become the leader of the alliance." Luffy quickly took it and put it on directly, his rainbow cloak fluttering in the wind, looking extremely domineering. Nami, who was walking at the back, said helplessly, "Childish, when will I be as mature and steady as your 2 brothers?" Robin covered his mouth and chuckled, praising, "Handsome." After Luffy put on the rainbow cloak, he looked like a captain, striding forward and humming a song, cutting through obstacles and clearing the path for the people behind him. When a group of them walked to the middle of the island, the other 4 teams of pirates had been waiting there for a long time, and everyone looked at the Straw Hats in unison. This place happens to be an open space with no trees around, only short weeds, which just gives them space to play. Advertisement. Luffy strode forward. He was about to greet everyone with a smile, but found that he didn't know anyone and couldn't call anyone by name. He could only say with a smile, "Hello everyone, I am the future One Piece Luffy." The next moment, everyone except the Straw Hats stood up with angry faces, stared at Luffy, and tightened their grip on the saber at their waists, tense for a moment. Nami, who saw that the situation was not good, immediately put a smile on his face, walked quickly ahead and explained with a smile. "Don't get me wrong, Luffy's surname is actually Wong, and his name is Luffy. He is just an ordinary pirate, that's all." Luffy, who was about to refute unwillingly, was directly pushed to the ground by Usopp and Nami and beat him up before he calmed down. Then Robin looked at everyone and introduced Luffy softly. "Did you see that red-haired hedgehog? He is the captain of the Kid Pirates, with a bounty of 315 million belly. The one on his right is holding a cigar. The fat man is Capone Becky, the leader of the Flame Tank Pirates, with a bounty of 300 million belly. Next is the girl with pink hair, Joelle Bonnie, who is the leader of the Bonnie Pirates, with a bounty of 145,000 belly. Finally, the strong man with wings on his back is Erki, the leader of the Broken Monk Pirates. The bounty is 108 million berries. They are all pirates with a bounty of over 100 million, and their strength cannot be underestimated. Luffy listened extremely seriously and kept nodding. Well, it turns out it's them. I remember it, I understand. He took a step forward and greeted everyone with a smile again. Hello, Captain Kiki, Captain Bebe, Captain Bobo, and Captain Monk. Nami, Usopp, and Zoro all lost their balance at the same time and fell to the ground, making Robin laugh heartily. Becky, the captain of the Flame Tank Pirates, took a puff of cigarette and said coldly. Is there something wrong with this kid? I propose to eliminate the Straw Hats. Their presence will only weaken the power of our Supernova Alliance. Captain Kidd, you came up with the Supernova Alliance's opinion. Do you think this kind of person is qualified to be our ally? Luffy immediately panicked, sweating profusely and begging. No, Bebe, I still want to be the leader of the Supernova Alliance, you can't abandon me. Everyone else turned to look at the Kid Pirates. Kid Pirates Kira said calmly. I don't know whether the Straw Hats are stupid or not. I only know that their bounty is the highest among all of us. Straw Hat Luffy 800 million belly, Roronoa. Zoro's bounty is 320 million belly. Everyone, if you are still in the naive stage of being deceived by the Straw Hats, then I really feel sad. There is really no need for this Supernova Alliance to continue. You are all waiting to be defeated one by the Black Justice Pirates. Defeated. Advertisement. The others fell silent for a moment. No matter how childish and ridiculous the Straw Hats behave, the bounty given by the Marine headquarters is the best indication of their strength and their record. There is no need to say anything else. Chow Ellie Bonnie, the captain of the Bonnie Pirates with an attractive figure, took a step forward, drew out her long sword and shouted. In that case, why don't I try the strength of the Straw Hats first? If you really have this strength, the leader of the alliance, I'll leave the position to you. Luffy waved his hand and said to Zoro, Zoro, beat her to death so that I can become the leader of the alliance. Zoro pursed his lips, rolled his eyes, and refused. I don't kill women. Luffy, who was rejected, could only laugh and take a step forward, looking at everyone and shouting. Who else? You can come together. If I defeat you, I will be the leader of the Supernova Alliance, ha 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 ha. Nami jumped up and punched Luffy, knocking him to the ground. He smiled and said to everyone. Let's do it one by one, one by one. Captain Bonnie snorted and looked at Zoro with an increasingly evil look. She would not accept such a ridiculous proposal from Luffy. If the four captains really joined forces to attack one person, it would be an insult to themselves. Stop talking nonsense and start quickly. Bonnie looked at Luffy coldly, with an unkind look on his face. Luffy jumped up without hesitation, leaping high in the air and shouted, Gong mo gong machine gun. Countless arms instantly appeared in the sky, rushing towards Bonnie like a gust of wind. The pink-haired Captain Bonnie flashed, quickly dodged one arm, and then slashed at the other with his knife. But what she didn't expect was that arm was just a phantom, and was directly hit by countless other arms. While hurriedly parrying, she retreated steadily, and was no match for Luffy. After a while, Bonnie was sweating profusely. Luffy didn't give up in the air. He put his legs together and kicked Bonnie down. Without any sympathy, he shouted again. Gong mo gong spear spear. Both feet were stretched out in the air, like a hard spear piercing Bonnie's upper body like lightning, making a sound of breaking through the air. Chapter 153 Afternoon. Bonnie had no time to dodge, and was kicked hard to the ground. The ground shook violently, and a large pit appeared, with smoke and dust everywhere. Several strong men behind the Bonnie Pirates hurriedly stepped forward to check Bonnie's injuries. After seeing that Bonnie was fine, they breathed a sigh of relief and complained. Captain, your strength is not fighting in the first place, but you still like to show off so much that you have forgotten everything I just told you. Bonnie, who was covered in dust, smiled and said, this guy is really strong. Ulki, the captain of the Broken Monk Pirates, walked forward with a hearty laugh, holding a huge black hexagonal prism pencil, and put it down heavily on the ground. The whole ground shook. He smiled heartily and said, Straw Hat Luffy, let's go ahead. Let me, learn your skills. Before Luffy could agree, Zoro had already drawn his knife and rushed forward, saying in a deep voice, Luffy, take a rest. I won't be merciful to men. Luffy smiled and said, then I'll leave it to you. Zoro just drew out two sabers of third-generation Kitetsu and Yukikashi, and walked forward to confront Yerki with ease. The other pirates held their breath and looked at everyone seriously. In their opinion, this former pirate hunter was the most threatening existence among the Straw Hats. The green-haired swordsman just stood there quietly, with a trace of blood on his body. There was an invisible force coming towards them. Yerki, who had wings on his back, didn't care who his opponent was. He laughed arrogantly and waved the huge pencil in his hand wantonly. Nanoro Zoro, I've heard of you a long time ago, and I just want to learn from you today. The huge black pencil roared into the wind, swinging out a circle with extremely overbearing power, and smashed towards Zoro, falling in the air. Zoro got into a horse stance, took a deep breath and placed his two swords side by side in front of him. The muscles in his arms suddenly swelled a bit. Blue water surged on the blades of the two swords, covering the swords with a light layer at the same time. Waterfilm whispered. Breath of water, two sword styles, two slashes. In an instant, Zoro's figure disappeared, and a wave of majesty arose on the spot. Third generation Kitetsu and Yukizo's swords flash with light and water surge, and they use the gaps between their moves to suppress as much as possible to perform high-speed continuous slashes. Advertisement: countless rays of blue sword light flashed in the air, and the thick black pencil in Yuki's hand instantly fell into pieces, like tofu, being cut into equally spaced pieces, with no difference in size between each piece. Urkimu was dumbfounded. He held the small piece of pencil left in his hand and sighed. If we don't fight, we will have to fight tooth and nail if we continue. This is not the original intention of our operation. The rest of the people also took a breath of cold air and were shocked in their hearts. The spiky-haired Captain Kid smiled ferociously and wanted to continue testing. He was already looking at him with hunger and thirst, especially after meeting such a good opponent. His blood was boiling. Kid walked forward excitedly, but was stopped by Kira, who said calmly, "Don't forget what we are here for. If you want to fight and encounter the Black Justice pirates, there will be plenty of opportunities." Kid's expression froze, and then he remembered that there was an extremely powerful Black Justice pirate group, eyeing them on the sea. Otherwise, the few remaining supernovae would not have been able to gather on this island. After calming down, Kid slowly took a step back and said coldly, "In this case, if everyone has no objections, the position of leader of the alliance will be temporarily left to Straw Hat King Luffy." Luffy just grinned and bared his teeth and was happy to have obtained the position of leader. He didn't notice the question of Kid's address. He just kept his hands on his hips and looked up to the sky with a silly smile. Others fell into silence for a while. "Everyone, look at me and I look at you. After all, there are no other objections. Even if you become the leader of this supernova alliance, there is actually no substantial benefit. There is no power constraint between their loose temporary alliance. In addition, there is another point that everyone knows, but cannot say. The reason why they didn't try their best to win the position of alliance leader is because after becoming the alliance leader, if they encounter the Black Justice pirates again, they will inevitably have to bear the brunt of the difficulties. It is more likely that he will be targeted by the Black Justice pirates who come to visit him in the future and become an unlucky scapegoat. The pros and cons are self-evident. Usopp and Luffy laughed happily, holding hands and spinning around in circles to celebrate. Nami and Robin looked at each other, both seeing the worry in each other's eyes. Advertisement: Luffy, the brainless one, doesn't understand this kind of thing at all, but the two of them know it all too well. Then both of them smiled helplessly. Who put such a captain on the table? Isn't this Luffy's pursuit of adventure? After confirming the leader of their supernova alliance, the subsequent atmosphere undoubtedly relaxed a lot. They got to know each other again and introduced each other. Then they began to discuss the official policy and strategy against the Black Justice pirates. When the discussion reached this point, Luffy, as the leader of the Supernova Alliance, was undoubtedly confused. After hemming and hawing a lot of useless nonsense, he finally concluded, as long as we encounter Black Justice, the pirates, just go up and give them a good beating, we don't have to think too much about anything else. Everyone rolled their eyes and ignored Luffy's words. Nami, who really couldn't stand it anymore, continued. I believe you have all noticed that the Black Justice pirates are rising at an unprecedented speed. And they are specifically targeting big pirates with bounties of less than 100 million belly. They don't pay attention at all. They're expanding crazily at an extremely fast speed, so their next target is likely to be one of us. There is another thing that Nami didn't say clearly. Among these supernovas, they are definitely the most powerful ones. Others may be lucky enough to escape, but they themselves cannot escape. This is why neither she nor Robin stopped Luffy from joining the alliance. Everyone nodded in agreement with Nami's statement, and then Becky, the leader of the Flame Tank Pirates, smoked a cigar and said seriously, since the proposal of our alliance was initiated by the Kira brothers, I think the Kira brothers should have already strategy. Kira, who was wearing a mask, looked around at everyone and said in a calm voice, actually, I agree with Straw Hat Luffy. All the conspiracies and tricks in this sea are inferior to absolute strength. The reason why we are in alliance is just because we feel that the power is just too small. Now that our 5 pirate groups have joined forces, it would be ridiculous if we were still thinking of any strategies. According to my idea, I would immediately issue a challenge to the Black Justice pirates, take the initiative, and maybe gain some psychological advantages. Attacking is always better than passively being beaten. Everyone's eyes exuded a strange light and looked excited. Luffy stood up suddenly, with a surge of pride, and shouted loudly, Declaration of War. Chapter 154 Prologue. On this day, there was another breaking news, which made all the pirates on the sea pay attention and get excited. The Supernova Alliance, composed of the Straw Hat Pirates, Kid Pirates, Flame Tank Pirates, Bonnie Pirates, and the Broken Monk Pirates, officially issued a challenge to the Black Justice Pirates. The location is in front of the Red Continent in the middle of the Grand Line, in the waters near the Sabo land islands. The Black Justice Pirates, who were moving forward with great momentum, resolutely agreed to their challenge. Although this surprised everyone, it was also expected. After all, the attitude shown by the Black Justice Pirates before was obviously to deal with those who had already the supernovas of fame were dealt with one by one. For a time, the wind and clouds surged above the sea, and the mountain rain was about to come. Which of these pirate groups has not been famous on the sea for a long time? Almost all the pirates flocked towards the Sabo Islands, wanting to watch this unprecedented decisive battle among pirate groups. There are even good people who predict that if the Black Justice Pirates can really eat the entire Supernova Alliance this time, then the Black Justice Pirates will truly have the foundation to become the 5th Emperor of the Sea. At that time, no matter whether the captain of Black Justice had combat power comparable to that of the other 4 emperors, as long as they did not enter the New World, they were already invincible in the first half of the Grand Line. Of course, it was not just the pirates who got the news about the battle between these two groups of pirates. The Marine headquarters held an emergency meeting and unanimously agreed that this was a great opportunity to eliminate these pirates in one fell swoop, and the most thorough deployment plan must be made. Just fine. Black Justice Pirates. At noon, the sea surface is sparkling and shining with bright light. In his opinion, after at least 2 more years of battle training, he must be the 5th Emperor of the Sea after the red-haired pirates. Lao Sha sighed and still didn't know what to say, so he simply handed the challenge letter to Shuya. He felt tired just thinking about such a bloody thing. Luo, the captain of the 3rd Division on the side, looked frightened, as if something bad had happened, so he took the challenge letter and began to read the content. Advertisement. What the hell are supernovas? If ranked according to their combat power, the Black Justice Pirates now have 46 people including themselves, and 40 of them can be considered supernovas. Luo was stunned, as if he had been struck by lightning in broad daylight. He opened his mouth wide and exclaimed loudly, "What?" Luo smiled bitterly. It turned out to be such a mistake. Lao Sha's steady and mature proposal was unanimously approved by everyone in an instant. Just go ahead, and Shuya immediately walked to the phone and contacted the National Preceptor. Shuya, who was now a Black Justice Navigator, asked in confusion, "Captain Old Man, what happened?" Coupled with Cheng Cheng's unfathomable fighting power, this so-called alliance is just like a joke and there is no danger at all. A real dragon on the sea faced 5 tigers. Although the strength of these 5 tigers should not be underestimated, compared with the real dragon, they were no longer in the same rank. Shuya sighed and asked helplessly, "Captain Luo, do you know the Straw Hats?" Lao Sha definitely didn't want to miss the opportunity to defeat all the remaining supernovas in one fell swoop. In the end, Lao Sha made the final decision: we still have to fight. When we really encounter them, we will only deal with Kid and the other 4. As long as you don't hurt Luffy, it'll be fine. Shuya, Kabasi, and Luo all thought that there was something important written on it that could make this mysterious second team member silent for a long time. At the same time, however, after waiting for a long time, no one answered the phone. Finally, he called Cayenne, and was told by Kosha that the National Master had gone out to practice, maybe in retreat at the bottom of the sea, so it was normal not to hear the phone bug. During the more than 10 days he spent in the Black Justice Pirates, Luo had already realized how powerful their pirate group was. Almost all members were powerful phantom beasts. Luo Jingping said, "Of course I know that this group of people is also very bold. They even attacked Judiciary Island some time ago. They're considered to be the more courageous pirates. Before our Black Justice appeared, they were in the limelight. He himself was a so-called supernova before, but now, he no longer cares about those claims." Everyone had no choice but to accept the Supernova Alliance challenge first. Advertisement. After seeing that Captain Luo didn't understand the real situation, Shuya could only explain with a wry smile. "Then you may not know that Straw Hat Luffy is the younger brother of our National Master." On the other side of the sea, there were also 5 pirate ships moving side by side on the sea. The Wanli Sunshine in the middle was far ahead. Luffy was sitting on the lion's head on the bow of the ship, his face full of excitement, and he shouted. The Black Justice Pirates immediately turned around and headed to the waters of the Sabo Islands. "What a bullshit Supernova Alliance, they're just a bunch of chickens and dogs, nothing to worry about at all. Besides, we originally had to go find them one by one, but luckily they packed it and delivered it to our door, saving us the trouble of looking for it. Their time. Isn't that nice? There is very little content in the challenge letter, and the information is very concise and clear." The battle strategy of the Black Justice Pirates was determined in a few words. As for the possibility of another failure in this battle, they never thought about it. Charge. Defeat Black Justice. Otherwise, the old-fashioned captain and I wouldn't be so entangled. Shuya continued to explain, "And don't think that there is any conflict between the brothers. I tell you there is no conflict at all. It's just that Straw Hat Luffy doesn't know the identity of our National Master." After Luo read it, he laughed and said, "This is a good thing. These guys don't know the heights of heaven and earth, even if a few more of us, Black Justice, are not afraid of them." Then I saw that Shuya and the captain of the 2nd Division were still silent and looked weird, so I couldn't help but ask, "Is there something I don't know about?" Luo nodded in agreement and said slowly, "If there is a chance then, I will just explain everything to the Straw Hat boss. I believe they will not take the initiative." After Shuya read the contents of the challenge, she remained silent, dumbfounded. Lao Sha on the side suggested, "In that case, let's ask that kid Cheng Cheng first. When the time comes, it's up to him whether it's a real fight or a fake fight. Otherwise, if we hurt little b***** D Luffy during the battle, Cheng Cheng, you have to fight with us." Lao Sha was holding the challenge signed by the Supernova Alliance in his hand. His expression was strange and uncertain. He thought for a long time and didn't know how to speak. Chapter 155 Confrontation. The remaining 4 pirate ships were in the shape of a ladder, moving forward at a constant speed behind both sides of the Wanli Sunshine, and together they made 5 watermarks. Captain Kidd snorted coldly, "Let that kid be proud for a while. I didn't expect that he would actually regard himself as the leader of the Supernova Alliance." Kira, whose face was hidden under a mask, was holding the fence with one hand, looking at the sea ahead, and said in a calm voice, "There is nothing wrong with someone willing to be the leader. When we meet the Black Justice Pirates, it is best to find a way to let the Straw Hats take the lead, so that we can see the true nature of the Black Justice Pirates through them. Strength. If the Straw Hats are unwilling to take action, we can even secretly add fuel to the fire if necessary." Kid sneered. "That guy is just a brainless guy. Don't worry, even if you stop him, he will rush forward regardless. Kira sneered and didn't refute anything. On the Bonnie pirates, the pink-haired Captain Bonnie is eating bones and meat. The ground in front of him is filled with food, like a hill, and the whole ship is exuding the aroma of meat. A crew member behind her persuaded, Captain, when we meet the Black Justice pirates later, you must not be impulsive anymore. We joined the Supernova Alliance to protect ourselves, not to die. If you die, you won't be able to eat meat and drink alcohol so freely in the future. The sea area of the Sabo Islands is full of chilling atmosphere. Zoro tightened his grip on third-generation Kitetsu around his waist, feeling unfazed and said, it's actually not that serious. After all, we are the 5 Great Pirates Alliance this time. How strong can Black Justice be? Besides, no matter how strong they are, I have them. Confidently cut them with one sword. After hearing the word provocation, Usopp forgot what fear was and volunteered, leave this to me. I'm a brave sea warrior. I can do the talking. The pirates high up on the island and the people watching the battle in the distance instantly became excited. It seemed that today's unprecedented battle was absolutely unavoidable. Facing the shameless Luffy, even Nami had no choice but to look at everyone and said, but we are the leader of the alliance this time. We can use more verbal provocations before the war starts, but try not to actually fight. Advertisement. There are also rumors that every member of the Black Justice Pirates is as big as a hill. If they encounter an enemy, they only need to step on it, and the opponent's entire pirate ship will be shattered. Ah la la. It hurts Nami, it hurts me so much. Luffy rolled on the ground in pain and couldn't get up. That afternoon, a large number of pirates poured into the Sabo Islands one after another, creating a lively scene. Zoro and Sanji knew what important thing Nami was going to say, so they all gathered around. Usopp hugged the mast and said distressedly, Wanli Sunshine, I didn't expect that you just went to sea with us and would experience such a catastrophe with us. I don't know whether the two of us, brothers and sisters, can survive this battle. The Black Justice Pirates and the Supernova Alliance stopped and looked at each other from a distance, but no one took the lead. Then he looked at Luffy, who was pretending to be serious. Nami punched Luffy on the deck and said, why are your two brothers so good, but you are so weak-minded? Wang Luffy, the leader of the Supernova Alliance and the captain of the Straw Hat Pirates, laughed loudly and stood proudly on the bow of the ship, shouting, Captain of the Black Justice Pirates, come out and die, I will beat you away. Frankie, who was only wearing a pair of shorts on his lower body, screamed excitedly and laughed loudly. The Wanli Sunshine is the fastest ship on the sea. Even if we can't open the ship, we can still escape. Don't worry, big sister head. The more courageous pirates did not land on the island, but directly docked their pirate ships on the nearby sea, without fear of harming the fish. Of course, these people were also confident in their own strength. Bonnie, whose mouth was full of fat, muttered vaguely, I know, I'll eat you too if you keep talking. Nami called Luffy back to the deck seriously, staring at him seriously. Luffy didn't realize the seriousness of the matter at all. He just grinned heartlessly, and his mind was filled with the joy of becoming the leader of the alliance. The big bosses of the casinos on the island also used tomorrow's war as a bet and set their plates, which directly triggered a heated atmosphere for the participation of all people. Aboard the Wanli Sunshine, Nami said sternly, the enemy we are facing is definitely more powerful than ever before, and the battle is definitely unavoidable. However, I hope Luffy won't be the first to rush forward. At least you won't let the Black Justice Pirates kill us. As a priority care object, don't you understand? Advertisement. The man sighed and said nothing more. He could only adapt to the situation when the time comes. As for the other Broken Monk Pirates and the Flame Tank Pirates, they all have their own agendas. Everyone has their own thoughts, which cannot be explained. However, I miss brother Cheng Cheng a little now. If he and brother Ace could be here, we wouldn't have to worry at all. In this night when most people were not sleepy, the next day came quietly. First, 5 pirate ships appeared on the sea, menacingly, and then everyone saw the Black Justice pirate ship, traveling opposite each other, and stopped about 1,000 meters away, looking at each other from a distance. The blue sea is filled with water and the breeze is gentle. The bosses of major casinos were laughing from ear to ear because of this. No matter whether the Black Pirates group could win or the Supernova Alliance could win, they had already won anyway. Nami finally got some comfort, patted Frankie on the shoulder, and said happily, you are still reliable, unlike Luffy, who always likes to mess around. Now that the excitement has passed, Usopp's legs can't help trembling when he thinks about the upcoming battle with the Black Justice Pirates. He can only hold on to the mast with both hands to force his body to stand firm, with cold sweat on his face. Like beans, they fall down desperately. Most of the pirates came to a high place on the island, wanting to climb up and overlook the battle on the sea tomorrow. A strong wind suddenly rose on the sea, blowing all the sails loudly. Usopp has long heard that the Black Justice Pirates killed 2 Marine Lieutenant Generals when they first debuted. After that, they fought against others and crushed them all without losing a single victory. Nami looked around at everyone with a serious face and said, you all come here too, let's have a meeting. Luffy nodded with a rare seriousness. Understood. For a time, the two sides were at war with each other and filled with murderous intent. Chapter 156 War begins. For a moment, everyone heard these extremely provocative words. The other people watching the battle all cast admiring glances at Straw Hat Luffy and gave them a thumbs up. As for the other 4 pirate ships of the Supernova Alliance, they were quiet and showed no reaction. All the crew members of the Black Justice Pirates now know that Luffy is the younger brother of their national master, so they definitely cannot be beaten. Therefore, the Black Justice Pirates, who have been invincible since they set out to sea and have always been the first to attack, are surprisingly quiet at this moment and do not make any moves. In the eyes of everyone, it was undoubtedly the members of the Black Justice Pirates who hesitated. Some even speculated that it was the Black Justice people who were afraid. Usopp laughed heartily and said triumphantly, "Luffy, leave it to me to shout a few words. There are so many of us, and the Black Justice Pirates across the way are probably scared to death right now. Maybe they're discussing it right now. How to escape." Luffy laughed, jumped off the bow of the ship, and made room for Usopp. His arms circled and spun, like two rapidly rotating fans. Mia mo Mia, pistol. But before his arm could be extended, Nami pushed Luffy to the ground and said angrily, "What did I tell you yesterday? Have you forgotten it? Don't make the first move. Let Usopp talk first. Let's see what happens next. The Black Justice Pirates are extremely powerful. I will never allow you to mess around this time." Zoro on the side slowly pulled out the third-generation Kitetsu and Yuki Kakeru, with a serious look on his face and ready for a big battle. Sanji was smoking a cigarette with a solemn look on his face, without his usual bohemian look. Frankie was controlling the Wanli Sunshine, and there was plenty of coke in the energy room, so he was ready to adapt to changes. The entire pirate ship was prepared and full of murderous intent. Usopp climbed onto the lion's head at the bow of the ship, coughed, put down his goggles, and shouted, "I am the great sea warrior, your Uncle Usopp. You little turtles of the Black Justice Pirates, come out if you can and fight our Captain Luffy to the death. Luffy will never be afraid of you." Advertisement. After Nami stepped on the ground with his foot, Luffy grinned and gave Usopp a thumbs up, praising, "Well said." After receiving Luffy's approval, Usopp laughed even more wildly and unscrupulously. "I think you, the Black Justice Pirates, are all vain, right? You still don't dare to take action? Are you scared by my aura? But let me tell you, I have a good heart. If you want you to surrender obediently and admit defeat, our Supernova Alliance is still willing to let you live." Others in the Supernova Alliance sneered, knowing that the situation was almost over. Only Kira said in confusion, "It is rumored that the Black Justice Pirates have always taken the lead and crushed them all the way. Why have they become timid today?" Captain Kidd sneered, "Aren't you just afraid? What's there to say?" The two captains of the Broken Monk Pirates and the Flame Tank Pirates did not speak and watched everything that happened quietly. Captain Bonnie also wanted to step forward and yell a few words, but was blocked by his subordinates. Godzilla Tori of the Black Justice Pirates took the initiative and said, "This guy with a long nose is too hateful. We can't fight Luffy, or I'll just go and eat this long nose." Shuya said angrily, "No, we can't touch any of the Straw Hats, unless you want to bear the wrath of the National Preceptor yourself." Godzilla Toli smiled and said, "I think the atmosphere is a bit tense. Just kidding, how can we really take action against the Straw Hats? Luffy is the younger brother of the Imperial Master, and even if his comrades point their noses and scold my 18th generation ancestor, I, Tori, have to accept them all with a smile." As soon as he finished speaking, everyone smiled knowingly. The Imperial Master has shown kindness to them, so what does it mean to be scolded a few times? How many pieces of meat will they lose? How many bowls of rice will they miss? Lao Sha sneered in his heart, "These stupid people must not know that if that kid wants to kill them all, just a thought is enough. After signing that contract, everyone is the same as that kid's lackeys." Shuya also breathed a sigh of relief and said to Luo, the captain of the 3rd Division, "Can we teleport to Luffy's ship now? If so, you can go over and explain and ask him to withdraw, or not to take action, so that we can be free." Luo touched his hat and shook his head. "No, the distance is still a bit far now. My room space cannot teleport this far." Advertisement. Shuya said, "Then it would be better to be closer." Then others began to control the Black Justice pirate ship and slowly moved forward. It didn't matter what he did. Usopp, who was standing on the lion's head and still yelling wildly, suddenly lost his legs. His feet were unsteady and he fell from the top. When he was about to fall into the sea, Sanji stepped on the moonwalk and pulled him away, rescued. Nami immediately said loudly, "Frankie, let's move back a little." "Got it. Big sister." Not only the Wanli Sunshine was retreating, but the other 4 pirate ships that had just shouted were also retreating in unison. So there was such a funny scene. The Black Justice Pirates forced the entire Supernova Alliance to retreat before the war started. Both those who watched the battle at the heights of the Sabo Islands and those watching the battle on the sea were greatly shocked. At the same time, they once again felt the powerful Yamato terror of the Black Justice Pirates. Shuya saw that the distance between them and the Straw Hats was not only not getting closer, but also getting further away, so she could only ask someone to stop the boat again, and said helplessly, "Forget it, when the fight starts later, we just don't hurt the Straw Hats." After seeing that the Black Justice Pirates had stopped again and had no intention of attacking, Usopp was even more relieved this time. He thought that they must be scared, so he stood on the bow of the ship again, but this time he was careful and didn't climb on the lion's head. But Usopp had a big speaker in his hand, which could make the sound spread out even more. He exerted all his strength and continued to yell. "Black Justice Pirates, if you are scared, leave quickly. If you see our Wanli Sunshine in the future, take a detour. I will forget about it." Captain Bonnie couldn't bear it anymore. She wanted to punch someone after listening to Usopp's words. She also jumped on the bow of the ship and yelled, "Black Justice Pirates, you are just a bunch of cowardly turtles. Come on if you have the skills. I'm waiting for you here." Whoever runs away is the grandson. The next moment, 3 black shadows like hills suddenly appeared on the calm sea. Each black shadow was more than 50 meters high. King Kong Hulua took the lead, leaping high into the clouds, and then smashed towards the Bonnie pirates like a mountain bearing down on top. The members of the Bonnie pirates looked up at the sky, feeling as if the sky had turned black, and the black shadow was like a mountain of rocks, falling down on them from the sky. Chapter 157 Lobbyist. No one watching the battle expected that after this confrontation, after a long period of verbal abuse, the war broke out like a volcanic eruption just after Captain Bonnie uttered the first sentence. Captain Bonnie, a slender man with a big stomach, stood at the bow of the ship and yelled, "What do you guys mean? You look down on us, don't you? The Straw Hat Pirates have been scolding you for so long, so you just act like a turtle and pretend to be deaf and dumb. Why did you explode just after I cursed you? Are you sick? You can't afford to play." No one from the Black Justice Pirates responded to her, only the huge figure of King Kong Harua descended from the sky like a mountain. The members of the Bonnie Pirates had never seen this scene before. They were so frightened that they stood there dumbfounded and even forgot to shoot at the giant chimpanzee in the sky. Captain Bonnie was the first to react and commanded everyone to shout, "Abandon ship quickly." At this time, the crew quickly jumped into the sea. If they didn't jump, they would only end up being crushed into meat patties by the huge body. At the same time, the members of Team 1 and Team 2 riding on the back of Godzilla transformed one after another, and the overwhelming phantom beasts went to hunt their prey on the other 4 pirate ships like tigers pouncing on prey. The battle between the Black Justice Pirates and the Supernova Alliance is about to break out, like a thunderous force, unstoppable. The members of the first and second teams had already assigned their prey and rushed forward. Only the Black Justice remained in place. Shuya and a few people with special abilities stayed to guard the pirate ship. Lao Sha, who was covered by a yellow robe, rushed towards the Kid Pirates, who he considered the strongest, without hesitation. In an instant, the sea shook, and the people watching the battle really became full of energy at this moment, and they couldn't help but clap their hands and cheer when they saw the intense scene. Except for the Wanli Sunshine in the middle, the other 4 pirate ships were fighting fiercely and in full swing. Luffy was so excited that he went all out to wait for his opponent's arrival. 2 minutes later, there was still no enemy coming towards them. Usopp's legs became weaker and weaker, and he collapsed on the ground in despair with tears streaming down his face. "It's over. Barbie is over. They are going to eliminate the others first, and then focus on us. Luffy. Let's run away now." Advertisement Nami also looked dull, as if he had lost his soul. Zeus comforted him. "Sister Nami, don't worry. If anyone dares to come over later, I will be the first to kill him." Luffy laughed, gathered his energy, and shouted, "Come on, I want to be a One Piece man. You can't defeat me, I'm not afraid of you." Zoro looked even more serious, paying full attention to the changes around him. But after a while, no one came. Luffy immediately said, "Now that we are allies, we can't just watch them get beaten. Zoro, we have to take the initiative." Zoro nodded solemnly. He naturally understood this simple and easy to understand truth, and rushed towards the Kid Pirates in a flash. But at this moment they saw a swordsman holding a long sword suddenly appeared on the boat. The man was tall and wearing a winter fur hat with leopard madara points. Robin recognized him immediately and said coldly, "Captain of the 3rd Division of the Black Justice Pirates, Trafalgar Law." Zoro didn't talk nonsense, and instantly activated the water breathing that he had prepared long ago. The water flow entangled his 2 swords, and his body was like the wind. He rolled up a hurricane and slashed towards Luo, shouting, "Luffy, go help them, leave this place to me." Luffy stretched out his arms without hesitation and jumped onto the Kid Pirate's ship. Luo wanted to explain at the first moment, but before he could speak, a powerful and heavy thunder struck from the sky above his head. Luo could only release the room space and disappear in place. A large crater was instantly blown out of the original deck position, and sawdust was flying. Flashing to the bow of the ship, Luo immediately explained, "We are." Then he was immediately interrupted by Zoro's oncoming double swords. Facing Zoro's extremely domineering double swords, Luo could only draw his sword to resist. Clang! The swords collided and a burst of brilliant sparks erupted. Advertisement Luo Man was cut back dozens of meters by Zoro's sword. Luo Man looked at Zoro in shock. He didn't expect that he would meet such a master of swordsmanship, and he couldn't help but want to fight. But thinking that now was not the time, he immediately stretched out his left hand. A small whirlwind of air quickly condensed in the palm of his hand, and silently said, "Room." Then Luo's figure instantly appeared high on the mast of the Wanli Sunshine, and he spoke faster, "I know Cheng Cheng." Zoro was already in midair, ready to continue slashing. His sword intent had filled his body, and he was ready to release a killer sword move to end the battle quickly. But after hearing the word Cheng Cheng, he forcibly withdrew the knife in the air, changed the direction of the knife, and fell to the deck. "What did you say? Do you know brother Cheng Cheng?" For a moment, Nami, Sanji, and Robin all stopped what they were doing. Even Zeus, who was ready to go in flashing thunder, also stopped and looked at Luo in surprise. Luo took advantage of this rare opportunity to breathe and quickly explained, "This is completely a misunderstanding. Our Black Justice Pirates are all subordinates of Cheng Cheng, and Cheng Cheng is the leader of the Black Justice Pirates." Ah! Like a bolt from the blue, everyone was shocked on the spot, staring at Luo with dumbfounded eyes, and then looked at each other, as if everyone was petrified. The most excited person is undoubtedly Usopp. His tears of fear have not yet been wiped away, but now they have turned into tears of joy. He jumped up and down and said, it's great, I don't have to die at last." The expressions of the others also softened after they had thought about it. Although Zoro pointed the tip of the sword downward, the water produced by the water breath on the blade was lingering, and he was always looking at Luo with vigilance. Nami looked Luo up and down and asked, "How can you prove it? If what you said is true, why didn't you tell it directly in advance? You had to wait until now to talk about it?" "The identity of the national preceptor cannot be exposed for the time being. Once I write a letter or tell you in other ways, there is a possibility that my identity will be exposed. That's why I came here to tell you personally." Seeing that they had no intention of continuing to take action for the time being, Luo finally relaxed his hanging heart and jumped down from the mast. He was as light as a swallow, his feet lightly stepped on the deck, and he said with a smile, "Actually, we have contacted Mr. Cheng Cheng before this, but he may be practicing in seclusion, and we have called him several times but have not been able to get through. You can call again now and ask if it is true or false, and you will know everything." Nami stepped back into the cabin cautiously, and at the same time did not forget to say to Zoro, "Keep an eye on him and don't let him make any small moves." Zoro nodded. His whole body was like a sharp blade hidden in a sheath. As long as the sword was drawn out, it would be like a thunderbolt. Chapter 158. One runs and the other chases. Luo raised his hands and tried to make his expression look approachable. He had no choice but to end up with a face that looked ruthless and not like a good person. Luo Z felt that he really couldn't be called a good person, after all, he was also a doctor. But Luffy and others, he must not move. Moreover, Zoro, the three-sword swordsman in front of him, has only used 2 swords, but his strength is already so terrifying. He is truly worthy of being the companion of the master's younger brother. In less than 5 minutes, Nami walked out of the deck with a gloomy face and looked at everyone helplessly. "I called several times but no one answered the phone. Brother Cheng Cheng doesn't know where he is now." Zoro and Sanji became more vigilant and showed no intention of relaxing. Luo smiled bitterly and continued to explain, "The head of the Cheng Cheng family has been practicing under the sea recently. It is normal for you not to receive calls. You can call again at night to ask and you will understand. In short, our Black Justice pirates are it's absolutely impossible to hurt you." Zoro and Sanji looked at each other and Nami neatly. For a moment, they didn't know what to do in this situation. On the one hand, the Black Justice pirates did not harm them. On the other hand, another possibility is to hold them back first, wait until the other 4 pirate groups are dealt with, and finally deal with them. It's just that Cheng Cheng can't be contacted now, and the identity of the other party cannot be determined. With Cheng Cheng's strength, it is reasonable to cultivate such a pirate group. And if it is true that the captain of the Black Justice pirates is Cheng Cheng, then Luffy, the leader of their Supernova Alliance, is a joke and it is completely a civil war. Nami analyzed quickly in her mind, her brain running rapidly. In short, no matter what, she definitely couldn't take action without confirming her identity. Nami cautiously took 2 steps forward, then suddenly had an idea and asked, "How is Tuanzi doing lately?" Luo, who was trying hard to keep a smile, was instantly confused and asked in confusion, "Who is Tuanzi?" "No. This is definitely a fake. Someone who doesn't even know Tuanzi wants to pretend to be brother Cheng Cheng." Nami, who tried her best to put on a smile on her face, quietly took a few steps back, stretched her right hand behind her waist and stretched out her index finger, secretly drew a wrong sign in the air, and at the same time said with an awkward smile, "Duongo, she is dumpling." In fact, without the Nami signal, Zoro, Sanji, Brook, and Robin were all shocked. The dumpling didn't even know who it was. "Don't worry, it must be a fake." In an instant. Advertisement, thunder, Yi Ming song, straight through. 2 swordsman style 2 cuts climbed the tower, twirling flower. Shoulder. Thunder and lightning flashed, swords flashed, 2 sword energy swept across, wrists flew, and the shadows of feet intertwined. Everyone activated their skills at once and attacked Luo. Luo, who obviously felt bad in his heart, was instantly frightened into a cold sweat by the formation and shouted softly, "WOC, room." The whole person disappeared instantly. "Damn it, I let this man run away again, and he actually deceived us." Nami snorted coldly. "I don't think the Black Justice pirates are that strong, so what if the captain of the 3rd division was beaten away by us?" Usopp laughed loudly and said, "You're right, I think that bullshit Black Justice pirates are really worthless but useless." However, Zoro had a gloomy look on his face was cold, and he pointed at the other pirate ships around him and said, "Look at the others." It was then that Usopp, Nami and the others noticed everything happening around them. Except for the Kid pirate group, where Luffy and Kid joined forces to fight, the other 3 pirate ships were all sunk. There was a sea of fire everywhere, and screams were endless. 3 small mountain-like Poseidon-like beasts were surrounding the Wanli Sunshine, looking down at them quietly. Luo's tiny figure stood proudly on the shoulders of a behemoth beast. Facing this strong sense of oppression, Zoro raised the corners of his mouth, showing no fear, and his fighting spirit became stronger. However, just when Zoro wanted to take the initiative, Luo, who was standing on the behemoth, suddenly said, "We won't fight today. Let's wait until you confirm with Master Cheng Cheng. Although I don't know who Tuanzi is, I, Trafalgar Law, have never been in the habit of deceiving others." Luo Da waved his hand, and all the phantom beasts put away their transformations and became ordinary people. They stood on Godzilla Toli's back and slowly left. Advertisement on the other side, Lao Sha, who was fighting Kid and Luffy, rolled up the yellow sand in the sky and left in the air. If it weren't for the addition of Luffy, Lao Sha would never have been so tied up in the fight with Kid. You must know that Cheng Cheng, the protector, knew that if he hurt his brother, he might have to cut off another arm. Straw Hat Luffy reluctantly wanted to continue fighting Lao Sha for 300 rounds, but was directly stopped by Nami and the others. After returning to the ship, Luffy looked at the 2 big black holes on the deck and felt heartbroken. He cursed angrily. Black Justice, these bastards are so abominable. They have destroyed my ship. Zeus and Nami both smiled, and Nami explained awkwardly, they didn't destroy it. Besides, Luffy, look at other people's ships, that's what their Black Justice destroyed. Luffy twisted his neck and rotated it 360 degrees. Among the 4 surrounding pirate ships, except for Kid's pirate ship which was still floating tenaciously on the sea, the other 3 Bonnie pirate ships, the Flame Tank pirate ship, and the Broken Monk pirate ship had all disappeared at this moment. They just changed. It became a sea of fire, and with the planks floating on the sea, it turned out that the 3 magnificent pirate ships had long since disappeared. Luffy's eyes widened instantly and he exclaimed, it's so scary. Then after seeing the Black Justice people escaping, he hurriedly said, quick, 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 Frankie fires the cannon. Let's catch up with them quickly, they will run away soon. Nami said with a strange expression. The captain of their 3rd division came just now and said that their captain was brother Cheng Cheng, so there was no fight. Luffy burst out laughing instantly. Ah ha ha ha, it turns out to be brother Cheng Cheng's pirate group. What coincidence, ha 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 ha. I'm so sorry, I almost beat them up. Nami continued to add. But no one answered the call to brother Cheng Cheng, and then I asked who Tuanzi was. He didn't know this person at all, so they're probably fake. Supernova Alliance leader Luffy nodded extremely seriously, that makes sense. Everyone else rolled their eyes. Usopp broke the situation and said, Luffy, you are not suitable for pretending to be serious. Sorry, ha ha ha, Luffy laughed, and then ordered, pursue them with all your strength, don't let the Black Justice pirates escape. Frankie set sail without hesitation and pursued the Black Justice at full speed. On the sea, the Supernova Alliance was defeated almost instantly, with only one ship left chasing the Black Justice pirates. One runs and the other chases. Chapter 159 The Overrated Pirates. Everyone was instantly shocked. Those who were watching the battle and watching the fun, shouting about the power of the Straw Hat Pirates, chased the famous Black Justice Pirates without taking any action, and the Black Justice Pirates simply didn't do anything. Don't dare to fight back. But in the eyes of those experts who really understood the situation, it was clear that the Black Justice Pirates didn't even bother to take action. They just defeated the so-called Supernova Alliance with a thunderous force and walked away. The pink-haired Captain Bonnie, lying dying on a broken board, cursed directly. Why are you targeting me so much? Do you really think women are easy to bully? The Straw Hat Boy scolded you idiots from beginning to end, and he didn't even see you fart. I just cursed you. Seeing that the pirate ship he had spent a lot of money to build had just disappeared into thin air, Captain Bonnie, who felt more and more aggrieved, burst into tears, so miserable that his cries shook the sky. The wings on the back of Ergi, the captain of the Broken Monk pirates, were broken and dripping with blood. All the pirates in the pirate group died. Ergi, who never even cursed a word from the beginning to the end, was so miserable. The earth is dead. From now on, the Broken Monk pirates will completely disappear from the sea. Becky, a fat man in a suit, was nailed to the ship's board by 2 black spears exuding the aura of death, and the entire board behind him was dyed black by the black aura. There was still white smoke from the cigar in Becky's mouth, but her breathing had stopped. In comparison, apart from the Straw Hat Pirates, the Kid Pirates suffered the least damage. Less than half of the members on the ship died. Kira's body was all covered with deep scratches, and his breath was weak. Only one breath lingers. Although the Captain Kid looked in a terrible state, Luffy's help shouldered most of his injuries, so Kid was the least injured person. Originally, he wanted to give the order to follow the Straw Hats and continue to pursue Black Justice, but he was stopped by Kira. Kira kept bleeding from his mouth and persuaded. The Black Justice Pirates are not something we can defeat. Their opponents are in the New World. After saying that, Kira tilted his head and passed out, not knowing whether he was alive or dead. Kid yelled angrily, looking up to the sky and yelling, Black Justice Pirates, Kid, are incompatible with you. The Wanli Sunshine is extremely fast and will soon close the distance with the Black Justice in front. Lao Sha said helplessly. What should I do? That kid is going to catch up soon, and he has already regarded me as an enemy. Luo slowly put the demon sword Gaiwei on the deck, sat down, and sighed, I can't go. I can't contact the National Preceptor. It's useless to say anything now. If it weren't for my special Devil Fruit ability, now has been hacked to death. Shuya, who knew the cause and effect, was dumbfounded. When Luo came, Tuanzi had been sent to the Marine headquarters, so how could he possibly know her? He could only look at Tori and whisper, Godzilla Tori, please. Advertisement. The fat Tolly slapped his belly with his fat hands and promised, leave it to me, no one is as fast as us in the sea. The pot-bellied Tori raised his arms, jumped into the sea, and made a splash. In an instant, a huge black shadow appeared below the Black Justice, much larger than the entire ship. Tori, who then transformed into Godzilla, pushed the Black Justice forward quickly with both hands in the water. As if a rocket propulsion device was installed behind the ship, the Black Justice retracted its sails, accelerated suddenly, cut through the sea, and rode the wind and waves. In the end, Marine, who came late, only captured some young pirates who were watching the battle at sea, as well as other members of the defeated Supernova Alliance. Everyone on the Wanli Sunshine was instantly dumbfounded. Nami, Chopper, Luffy and the others had already grasped the fence or mast at hand immediately, with firm eyes. Once again escaping Marine's pursuit, everyone on the ship was very happy. Receive. On the sea in the distance, at some point, many Marine warships of the same color appeared side by side and were speeding towards the battlefield. At this time, everyone suddenly realized that it was not the Straw Hats that the Black Justice pirates were afraid of, but Marine. The sea surface exploded instantly, and the Wanli Sunshine took off into the sky and flew into the sky, like a carp jumping over a dragon's gate. Frankie was shocked and said, "Even if you use the wind to fire the cannon, you can't catch up. Their speed is too fast, but this has given me new inspiration. It turns out that it can be driven by external force." The next morning, Nami's eyes widened and he quickly said to Luffy, "Look, we are behind us." After receiving the signal, Frankie laughed and pressed the button, shouting, "The wind will blast." As for the following line of small print analyzing the battle situation, Luffy was not in the mood to read it. He jumped to the bow of the ship and said angrily, "Let's go. Let's find Black Justice again, and we must regain our place." Nami murmured, "Can it still be like this? Advertisement? When will you be more stable?" Everyone opened their mouths and fell collectively. Deaths and injuries, the Supernova Alliance, which had just been established for 2 days, was forced to disband. Uso pulled up his slingshot and echoed, "Let's go. My great Sniper King only has a bounty of 30 million Baileys, which is indeed a bit short." "Is the Straw Hat Pirates' bounty overestimated?" Nami said angrily, "I have just contacted brother Cheng Cheng. He is indeed the captain of the Black Justice Pirates." Usopp and Chopper both breathed a long sigh of relief. "Well, you ran away well." Soon someone in the crowd was the first to shout, "Look, Marine is here." He actually said that the Black Justice Pirates didn't bother to take action against us because they thought we were too weak. Luffy stretched out his arm, opened the crumpled newspaper, and looked at it carefully. The first thing he saw was a prominent headline. Except for Straw Hat Luffy and Kid who escaped, all the other survivors were captured by Marine. Everyone was discussing intensely, exclaiming that this battle was very enjoyable. From the perspective of the battle scene, it was definitely a visual feast. The Wanli Sunshine sailed slowly on the sea. Nami clenched his fists and hit the two of them on the head. Soon Luffy and Usopp had a big swelling on their heads, and they started rolling around while crying. Everyone was dumbfounded. Can the boat still play like this? Everyone else watching the battle was confused about the outcome of the battle. Could it be that the Straw Hat Pirates had some trump card? Luffy, who was holding his straw hat, laughed loudly and shouted, "Frankie, get ready to start." Luffy lay weakly on the bow of the boat and sighed unwillingly. It's a pity that they ran away. But when Nami received the newspaper from the newspaper delivery seagull, she crumpled the newspaper into a ball, threw it to the ground, and said angrily, "Who wrote this report? What a fart. Or are there some powerful people among them that outsiders like them don't know about?" After Frankie agreed, he immediately grasped the rudder and prepared to control the direction. Zoro and Sanji quickly ran to the energy supply room on the first floor and skillfully filled the cola. Chapter 160 The King's Tears. Marine Headquarters. An important meeting is being held at this moment, and almost all the high-level officials are attending. The 3 generals, Akainu, Aokiji, Kizaru, and all the lieutenant generals in the headquarters are almost the same. At 10 o'clock in the morning, when everyone had almost arrived, Sengoku and Garp slowly walked into the conference room side by side and sat down casually. Sengoku cleared his throat and gate of opening said straightforwardly, "I believe you all know about the Black Justice Pirates who have been in the spotlight during this period, especially the battle with the Supernova Alliance in the Sabo Islands yesterday. They are so powerful that they defeated the 4 Supernova Pirates in an instant, and are even vaguely called the 5th Emperor of the Sea. This has not yet reached New World, and we must not let this happen under our noses." It was quiet in the conference room, and everyone was silent. Of course they know this, and there are even rumors that all members of the Black Justice Pirates possess the extremely rare Phantom Beast Devil Fruit. The strength cannot be underestimated. Akainu said in a calm voice, "If I remember correctly, the leader of the Supernova Alliance is the Straw Hat Pirates. No one among them was injured. It seems that the Straw Hat Pirates are also very strong. I suggest that while increasing the bounty for the Black Justice Pirates, we should also increase the bounty for the Straw Hat Pirates." Kizaru, who likes to wear sunglasses at all times, sneered, which seemed extremely harsh in the quiet conference room, and said with a smile, "The information I got is completely opposite to Sakazuki." Then Kizaru also threw out a newspaper and sarcastically said, "The Straw Hat Pirates are totally in vain. In the battle near the Sabo Islands, the Straw Hat Pirates survived not because of how strong they are, but because of their strength. It's because they are too weak. The Black Justice Pirates never attacked them from beginning to end, and did not regard them as opponents at all, except for Captain Luffy. The other members of the Straw Hats were too frightened to join the battle. The captain of this useless pirate group has 800 million belly, and the bounty is really too high now. I think it should be lowered a little bit." Sakazuki said coldly, "Don't forget, they are the leaders of the Supernova Alliance. Without strong strength, will others obey the Straw Hats?" Kizaru sneered, "As far as I know, the Straw Hats were the leader, but the other 4 pirate groups were using them as guns, but in the end they didn't expect that Black Justice would even bother to take action against the Straw Hats." Advertisement. Sengoku pressed his hands down. At this moment, he had read all the analysis content in the newspaper. He felt that what Kizaru said was not unreasonable. Then he turned to look at Garp and found that he had fallen asleep again at some point. After the other lieutenant generals also expressed their opinions, Warring States made the final decision. The bounty for the captain of the Black Justice Pirates has been raised to 1.7 billion belly. The bounty for the rest of the Straw Hat crew remains unchanged. Captain Luffy's bounty has been reduced from 800 million to 350 million berry. At the same time, General Akainu was sent to immediately lead his troops to the Sabo Islands to capture the Black Justice pirates. The others remained silent and did not speak. Only Kizaru stood up, adjusted his sunglasses, and sneered. When Sakazuki was chasing Trafalgar Law, he let the captain of the Black Justice pirates escape. It was obvious that he would go alone. No way. Therefore, I also request to fight. Warring States nodded in surprise. How come Kizaru has become a different person recently? In the past, he could hide from such things and be lazy whenever he could. How come he has become so diligent now? Kizaru explained. Fleet Admiral, don't look at me like that. Although I, Kizaru, usually like fishing, when it comes to the life and death of a marine general, I still know the importance. Akainu's face was as gloomy as water, and there was no expression at all. Warring States then nodded appreciatively and said with a hearty smile, approved. Wanli's sunshine. The sea was calm in the afternoon, and seagulls were circling in the sky. Luffy, who had just eaten 8 bowls of bones and meat, was lying lazily on the deck, gently patting his bulging belly, feeling very comfortable. After confirming that the captain of the Black Justice pirates was Cheng Cheng, they naturally had nothing to worry about, so much so that now Luffy no longer recognized his identity as the leader of the Supernova Alliance. Advertisement suddenly, seagulls flew over, and a brown paper reward letter fell down and swayed in the air. Looking up at the sky, Luffy noticed it immediately. He extended his arm by more than 10 meters and held the reward order firmly in his hand. After catching the bounty order and seeing his handsome avatar on it, Luffy happily raised the bounty order, waved it and shouted to everyone. Hey, everyone, this is my latest bounty order. It seems that even though I don't want to admit it now, the Marine headquarters still knows the identity of the Alliance leader, and the bounty will definitely increase again. Ha ha ha. Zoro, Sanji, and Usopp all gathered around in excitement. Only Nami looked depressed and said in pain. It's over, it's over. It was already 800 million belly before. If it increases any more, you will be dead. After everyone quickly gathered around, Luffy grinned and invited everyone to watch the bounty. He excitedly read out loud. 300 million belly, life or death. Look, it has increased to 300 million belly, aha, ha ha. But Luffy was smiling and his mind suddenly buzzed. The eyes of Zoro and Usopp were full of comfort, and Sanji patted him on the shoulder and lit a cigarette. Luffy's expression was dull, and he was about to burst into tears with a look of grievance on his face. This is wrong. I didn't have 800 million belly before. Why now it is only 300 million, and it is reduced by 500 million belly. Everyone didn't know how to comfort him for a while. Only Nami laughed and said happily, isn't it a good thing that the bounty has been lowered? This way we will be safer. Zoro said calmly. This is a matter related to the honor of our pirate group. Seeing Luffy sitting there in despair and crying, Nami was too embarrassed to say anything more, but was secretly happy in her heart. Luffy turned his back to everyone, crying with snot and tears, his whole body twitching and shaking, full of frustration. Sanji, who was standing on the bow of the boat, slowly exhaled smoke and said softly, want to eat meat? I'll make some for you. Luffy wiped his nose and nodded. Yeah. Captain Luffy has never been good at math, everyone knows this. Brook stepped forward to pick up the reward order from the ground and confirmed it again. He pointed at the numbers on it and said to himself, 1, 10, 100, 1000, 10,000. It's really 300 million Baileys. Luffy cried louder.